The Fan, an Odyssey station.
Seawald delivers. In there, got him looking, ball game. Paul Seawald closes it out, and the Arizona Diamondbacks here on the road at Citizens Bank Park have forced Game 7.
This is Dirt and Sprague.
Blitz off the edge, Cousins throws, and it's taken away by Addison for the touchdown. He and Charvarius Ward fighting for the ball, and this time Addison takes it for the score.
With Andy Dirt Johnson and Brandon Sprague.
1 ball, 2 strikes, 2-out pitch to Tucker. On the ground to second, should do it. Simeon throws to first, and the Texas Rangers, 90 wins in the regular season, fly cross country, and their journey will bring them to the World Series for the first time since 2011.
Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
All right, 6:02 in the Rose City. Time for Dirt and Sprague on Portland's sports leader, 1080 The Fan. Happy Tuesday, everybody.
What is happening?
Oh, hello.
Hello. What did
All right.
What did I miss yesterday? What did I miss?
Oh, I just don't want you to get me sick.
I know. It's always that fine balance of feeling guilty about not being here and not wanting to get people sick. I haven't gotten the wife sick yet, knock on wood, so hopefully you're in the clear.
You still sound a little sick. I know you may not feel that way. You still sound
a little
like
backed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're a little backed up. We're a little plugged up. I got some pipelines that are not flowing at proper speed right now.
How did this happen? The wife's
I
not
don't-
sick. You're sick. How did this happen? Whose house did you go to?
You know how stupid I am? This is how stupid I am. You know when you're playing golf and you get to like the 14th hole and you think to yourself, either as you're finishing a hole or teeing off on a hole, like, hey, I haven't lost a golf ball yet.
Okay.
And you just know the science and math and fact behind that is in the next 3 holes, you're going to chunk a ball into the water.
It's gone.
You're going to blow a tee shot out of bounds. Like, it's gone.
Yep.
The second that thought pops into your head, you're losing that golf ball. I don't know why, how, or what made me think this last week. I legitimately was sitting at my house one day after the show last week, and I thought to myself, I haven't been sick in a really long time.
Oh, nice timing.
And then on Friday night it started, and I'm like, oh God, where it's like my throat was so dry that I like felt like I had to cough all night. And I was like, I'm not going to Eugene tomorrow, but I'll set my alarm, whatever. I woke up Saturday and I felt fine. I had no issues. I'm like, all right, maybe it was just a weird night. I'll be okay. And then probably spending 4 hours in misty, rainy weather outside of Autzen Stadium didn't help on Saturday morning. I did not stay for the game. I left immediately after the postgame show, and I made it home exactly in time for kickoff. So
Perfect.
it was timed perfectly.
Yeah.
And like, I'm just going to lay on the couch. We'll just rest up. We'll be okay. And by the time I went to bed Saturday night, I'm like, I'm in some trouble here. This is not going well.
Yeah, it was doing the pregame show.
It probably was. It did not help, no.
Although if you were going to get sick,
I think it maybe
it
exacerbated
probably would have
things.
happened anyway. It just it expedited the situation.
It sped up the process a little bit. Sunday, I couldn't move on Sunday. I laid down for like 12 hours, which I usually do on Sundays, but it's more of like a leisurely lay down and watch football. This was a lay down because I can't move on Sunday.
Like a half, one eye open, one eye closed. I'm not
Yes.
feeling great. I don't know what's happening, but I kind of do know what's happening.
It was the only benefit of having it be that Sunday that I was sick because I lost literally every bet that I placed. And I was eliminated from my own survivor pool.
Yeah!
By the Buffalo Bills. I had to watch Mac Jones do his stupid dance in the end zone.
How many are left from that thing, by
There's
the way?
only 6 left after this weekend.
Oh, man.
The Bills were the big pick, and then
Yeah.
3 people were on the 49ers last night.
Oh, who do the other people have?
Seahawks. That was the
Yeah,
only other
Seahawks,
pick.
Cardinals.
So we were down to only 6 people in their survivor pool. So I was like, I was in and out of like sleeping all afternoon. And I'd wake up, and then I'd have texts of people being like, oh, no. And I'd look, I'd be like, I don't even know what the score is. And then I'd fall back asleep. And I woke up just in time to watch the final, 3 minutes of the Bills-Patriots game, which brought me immediate joy of, wow, they're actually going to do this. They have a lead with 2 minutes to go. And then they blew the lead and lost, and bye-bye Survivor pool.
All right. How about those couple days for Andy
So,
Dirt Johnson?
We had a great time. Yesterday was an awesome day of not doing anything.
Well, the best thing is it's Tuesday. What does Tuesday mean, Sprague? Tuesday means we've moved on from Oregon, Washington State. We're not ready for Oregon, Utah. It's
No.
NBA tip-off day. Woo! Welcome in.
Giannis getting his bag.
Oh, the Frozen Frenzy tonight. We got every team in the NHL playing a game.
Now we're talking. How pissed is the NBA that the Nuggets won the title? They have to include them in their opening night game.
They didn't even include the Nuggets
No.
in the graphic.
No, they didn't.
Did you see that? They did the swag. They did the advertising graphic of the game, of the two games, and there are 4 players on it, but not one of them is a Denver Nugget. Not one.
Or a guy who's won multiple MVPs and just won an NBA championship.
Exactly. Well,
They want nothing to
He
do with
probably
that.
didn't want to do the shoot.
he was probably scouting horses when they were doing the photo shoot.
Hey, we need you for a
I don't
photo
think-
shoot.
Was it even a photo shoot? I thought it was just
No.
screen grabs of last year.
Yeah, but he probably didn't respond in time.
Is it both AD and LeBron were like 2 Lakers, and then you had Steph, and then you had
I have to
who's
go.
the son?
See if I go find it.
I think it was
Is it
Booker.
KD or Booker?
It might have been KD because it's Golden State Phoenix, right?
Yeah, Golden State Phoenix in the nightcap.
Yeah, I think it's Booker or KD, Steph, LeBron.
Tatum. So it was KD, LeBron, Steph, and Tatum.
Tatum.
NBA
What's Tatum doing in
begins.
there? They're not on.
That's why people were laughing. They're like, they're playing the Nuggets, not the Celtics, right? Because all the Lakers have talked about is playing the Nuggets, playing the Nuggets, playing the Nuggets.
This is the one team they're like, please God, don't let the Nuggets win another championship.
I
Since
hate
the
to-
Blazers stink, I want Jokic to go nuts.
I enjoyed yesterday on the internet. Let me tell you why. Yesterday I got home roughly around 9:30. I redid my entire front yard this summer. I mean, I ripped the grass out. It was just a pile of dirt, and I've added cement. Yesterday I had one of these local rock companies do some drop off for me, and the guy that delivered is a P1 actually. Shout out to him.
Shout out to the Rock guys.
Really nice guy. And I finished my front yard yesterday. It took me 10 hours. I worked on this thing. I did not stop. It was 10 hours straight. Maybe not 10, maybe it was 8. But I worked a long time. I finished my front yard. And I thought to myself, I started chuckling at the end. I go, I'm probably doing a solo show tomorrow because he's sick, and that'd be natural to miss another day. I should probably go show prep. And I'm show prepping, and I write on my show sheet last week, and I still had it on yesterday. 6:30, dirty poll.
Dirty poll.
So I started writing my own dirty poll.
Ooh, we have corresponding top 10s.
In the chances that Dirt wasn't going to be able to make it, I couldn't backtrack. I had the dirty poll already written in there. So I hope you're ready to do the dirty poll today.
I'm ready, baby. I got my top 10.
Okay.
Well, it's
all right.
kind of appropriate because I believe after this weekend's games, we get the first
Yes, November.
committee
Yep.
poll.
I think it's next Thursday.
They're doing it
Or
on
Tuesday.
Thursday. It's usually Tuesday.
Yeah,
they
it's
knock
it's
that
a
out.
T day, but
Week from today, I believe.
yeah, I think
is
you're right on that.
When you get the first one. Did you punish the Washington Huskies for not scoring an offensive touchdown against the worst team in the conference?
I did not.
You did not. Okay.
No, I did not.
Okay, you're not a reactionary voter.
Did you
then.
punish Oklahoma for barely beating UCF, who has been awful in the Big 12 so far, and they were at home?
I'm just asking questions,
Okay,
man.
we'll see what your dirty poll is,
Didn't
because
get
if
to-
Oklahoma doesn't get punished, why should Washington get punished?
Well, they scored an offensive touchdown.
I mean,
And UCF is definitely better than Arizona State.
definitely?
Definitely.
Do we know that?
Yeah.
Swag?
I'm gonna go out on that limb.
What would the UCF Arizona State line be?
Minus
UCF
7.5.
-2?
Where's the game being played?
Neutral site.
Probably Golden Knights -4.5.
Okay.
Has
4.5.
Central Florida beaten a Power 5 program this year?
Yes, they have.
Okay, then that immediately vaults them into contention of being better than
I don't know
Arizona
we're
State.
arguing right now. Washington won the game. Yeah, that's all that matters.
I didn't get to talk about that yesterday, and I really wanted to talk about that.
Did you?
man. I was sitting in my house all day thinking I could have made fun of Washington for not scoring an offensive touchdown against the worst team in the conference.
You know that I like to check the old Reddits for the message board.
You should be
fodder.
rooting for those Huskies to stay undefeated.
That's a
if
very
you want
good
your
point.
Ducks to have a shot at the college football playoff.
Why do we need them to be undefeated?
Because, well,
If
to get
Oregon
in the
wins out,
playoff-
they're in. If Oregon wins out, they're in. They don't need Washington to be undefeated.
are they? Because right now Washington's 5th. There's like 4 or 5 teams. What if they all do the same thing?
And Washington loses a game, that doesn't hurt Oregon in any way, shape, or form.
But I'm saying if in this scenario that we currently have, Florida State, Georgia, Michigan, who is the other? Oklahoma, and Oregon, all 5 went out, Oregon's not making it.
I disagree.
Who would get bumped out of the playoff? In
Somebody
that
would
scenario?
have to get bumped out of the playoff.
I like that you say that like you're a kid talking about your toys.
Somebody's
like,
going to get bumped.
this Army man's going to win and this one's gone.
It's not my job to figure that out, okay? I just know my team will be in there. That's how this works, all right? Michigan's cheating, so they're immediately kicked out. They're no longer a viable playoff contender.
I mean, 49 to nothing.
NCAA is going to drop a hammer on them. They're not going to allow them to
They're going to be
compete.
number one in the first committee
Yeah, they
poll.
probably should be.
I hope everybody's ready for that.
How many ranked wins do they have? Are we just not? We're just going to keep
Their
doing
schedule's
that?
awful.
I mean, just beat somebody, anybody, play anybody.
Put the Michigan shoe, take the Michigan shoe off. Let's Mr. Rogers this thing, okay?
Okay.
I'll do this for the YouTube audience. Let's take off your Oregon shoe. All right, we just got into our house. We're going to put our Michigan shoe on now.
I like this.
And I want you to tell me now, with that same fandom you just had on the previous shoe, if you're having that argument, if you're a pro-Michigan guy, because I don't think you are. I think you're saying this defense looks amazing. McCarthy's in the Heisman frontrunner spot right now.
Dude, Michigan's a legit national title contender. Nobody disagrees with that. And eventually this will take care of itself. If they beat Penn State and they beat Ohio State, although I'm not really sure what to make over a win
How is Penn State
against
gonna
Penn
win that
State,
game?
right? I don't see it happening, but, hey, I digress, right?
Yeah.
When they win those two games, they will deserve to be ranked inside the top 4. As of now, if you told me that was Oregon's schedule, I would have no problem with that. Knowing that eventually it will take care of itself. If you win out, you're in if you're Michigan. But right now, them being ranked ahead of teams who have some of them multiple top 10 wins is a hair ridiculous.
It's a reputation thing, I think.
Which is dumb. Ranking them ahead of Ohio State, I know they've beaten Ohio State in the regular season the last 2 years, is ridiculously dumb.
We got a sneak peek at the dirty poll, don't we?
Like, you just
Look at
can't
that.
do that. Ohio State has 2 wins over teams that are ranked in the top 15.
I tell you what.
One of them on the road.
I'm going to carve out. We got Max Chadwick at 7:30 today, PFF college football guy. I'm going to carve out a few minutes. I will allow you the floor to talk about your guys' best win of the year this past weekend, because you didn't have one prior to this win.
No, we got to win over a team with a winning record.
Tech lost their quarterback. They're in a dumpster fall.
Yeah, that team
Colorado sucks. Stanford's awful. Hawaii, what's Hawaii doing right
One
now?
of the best passing attacks in the nation.
And Portland
bitch.
State, I don't think, is at the top of the Big Sky standings
They
right
could
now.
be. You have no clue. You have
Actually,
no clue.
Don't have any clue at
They
all.
very well could be ranked atop the Big Sky.
Will you bet that they are or not?
I think they're ranked in the FCS rankings.
Okay. All right. I don't think they are.
That 91-7 win over a fake college showed me all that I needed to know about how good that opponent is.
It's good to have you back, because nobody else I could laugh with about how Michigan's strength of schedule sucks and Oregon just got their best win of the year against an unranked Washington State team.
Dude, I was truly depressed yesterday. Like, if I were to miss a show in football season, missing like a Wednesday, it's like, whatever, dude. It's a Wednesday. I love Football Mondays.
Yeah.
That's
me
easily
too.
my favorite show. I'm not a big preview guy, because eventually you're just like, you want to throw your hands up and say,
Because you look wrong.
nobody knows what the hell's going to
Nobody.
happen.
Yeah.
And I feel like an idiot, but we have to predict games every single
I got a
weekend.
segment on this actually today. It's funny you say it just like that. I literally wrote on my show sheet, nobody knows what the hell's happening.
No, nobody has any clue, especially in the NFL right now. And so Mondays are great because you get to watch and then come in to react to what happened. And it was a crazy weekend. Houston should have beaten Texas.
Yeah, they got robbed.
You
on that
mentioned
fourth down
Oklahoma.
spot.
Like Oklahoma,
Oh.
if a 2-point conversion changes, they lose. How
Yeah.
much does that change the race? Washington didn't score an offensive touchdown against Arizona State. Imagine if your reaction if I tell you that on Friday.
I wouldn't have believed you.
Not going to score an offensive touchdown.
Yeah.
Arizona State's terrible.
There's some chatter brewing online. Was it cramping from Penix? Or
No,
was
I
it
think it's
something else.
I think it's a rib injury.
That's a pretty massive thing to be having. And I'd also be saying, not that they're going to do it, if that's a rib injury and it's more serious and they're letting on, like, why is he going to play against Stanford?
Yeah, this is one you feel like, well, this is the tough part with them is they can't really run. They ran the ball for less than 20 yards in that game.
If you can't beat Stanford without one player, you probably shouldn't be in the playoff anyway. Or, well, I think right now, if they only lose one game, they'd still be in the Pac-12
They'd still be
title
in.
game.
Yeah.
I think they actually locked that up this week.
Well, USC only has one loss still in conference. So, and USC and Washington play head to head. So that would be a
No, I'm
weird.
saying if they only lose one game, they're in because they own the tiebreaker against Oregon.
Oh, okay. I guess that makes sense.
We
yeah.
would have the tiebreaker against USC at that point because they'd have got through the season with only
Well,
one
and
loss.
USC and Oregon would play each other the
Yeah.
next week anyways. Even if
Right.
they beat Washington, the loser of the USC-Oregon game would be eliminated.
Well, it's good to have you back. I know you're not 100%, but it's good to have you at maybe 78%. Are
I'm
you
pumped full of
80%?
Tylenol and coffee, man. Let's do
Okay.
this
All
thing.
right, I can't wait. High dirt. We got a lot to get to. Max Chadwick at 7:30. Let's start. My happiness, it knows no bounds. That's next. Dirt and Sprague on the Fan.
A needed This is Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
So I mentioned I got my my yard work done. By the way, youtube.com/1080 The Fan. You can watch us there. And I get done and I go inside, I take a shower, and I'm settling down. I'm doing some show sheet stuff, reading some stuff, and I turn sports on. And we'll get to my football team who lost yesterday on Monday Night Football. It's always fun to watch your team lose to the Browns and the Vikings. And it's kind of falls in line with my segment in the NFL anyway. But I'm turning from that game during commercial break, and I go to another channel, and I remember something you had said a couple weeks ago, Dirt. And it just popped into my head right in the moment. And I'm watching this game, and I hear you say, can we move on? Is it over now? And the Houston Astros grounded out and lost to the Rangers last night in Game 7. And I went, yeah! Let's go! My wife goes, who won? And I said, not the cheating bastards. And I'm here to tell you, I didn't know I felt this way. I ain't moving on. I'm never moving on. I will probably die just looking at that team as forever cheaters. I don't care who's there, who's not there.
Okay.
Trash can, no trash can. Buzzers, no buzzers. I hate that team. I hate that team with a vengeance, and I will root every time that they lose. That was sweet, sweet glory watching the Rangers win that game in blowout fashion. That was partially why the World Series championship I got to celebrate with my Bravos in 2021 felt so good, was because they did the same thing to Houston to win the World Series.
Mm-hmm.
So going back to a comment you made a few weeks ago, no, I have not moved on. I hate that team. I will always watch that team, and I'm happy as hell that they lost in 7 games and got blown the hell out at home.
Dude, that's a totally normal reaction, and I understand that people will always hate the Astros. I was rooting for the Rangers yesterday as well. I don't root for the Houston Astros. My only thing was, can we just stop acting like the only reason they're winning is because they're cheating?
I mean, I don't know if that's not true.
Maybe your team should cheat harder because they haven't been to 7 straight NLCSs, and they lose in the first round all the time.
They only got 1 trophy out of it, so the Braves did that in the 90s.
They got 2. Well, the Astros
One of
have
them
2.
doesn't count.
One of them doesn't count.
That was the cheating one. The
that
non-cheating one.
Non-cheating one counts, but that one doesn't count.
Right,
Got it,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So all the other trips to the ALCSs don't count either.
I mean, what's the point? I tell you this as a Braves fan, it doesn't really make you feel better when your team gets to the Final Four and almost never wins it.
Yeah, look, I have an incredible amount of respect for what they've built, and I know that sounds blasphemous to a lot of people, but I would give crazy amount of thanks to watch my baseball team go to the NLCS 7 consecutive years.
Even if I told you are the universal hated team in the sport?
Yeah. I rooted for Barry Bonds. How do you think Barry Bonds was viewed in Major League Baseball when he was at the peak of his powers? He was public enemy number 1.
By the media, I don't think
Does that
fans
make
felt
Dirt an
that
expert
way.
on cheating?
Yeah, I think it does. I've been through this. My best player cheated.
Who's your college football team?
Sure. I mean, hey, they had a dead guy on a roster. Like, I know everything about cheating.
I'm trying to remember because I rooted for Barry Bonds to win the World Series in 2002. I wasn't a Giant fan, but I actually felt pretty sad when they lost that game.
Well, maybe you're anti-monkey.
Maybe the rally monkey,
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, the rally monkey. It pissed me off too.
But I never felt like they were the villains in baseball. He got booed when he went city to city, but that's great players get booed. Steroid, no steroid, great players get booed. I didn't feel like your team was this. This is a different level of hatred.
Sure, and I totally get it. I was, again, with everybody rooting for the Rangers last night, and I enjoyed watching the Astros lose. I actually bet on the Rangers because I heard the stat that Bochy had never lost a Game 7.
Never lost a Game 7.
And Dusty Baker had never won a Game 7, which is like, how is that possible?
You've experienced both of those.
I have no clue how that's possible because he's been in baseball for 8,000 years, but he's never won a Game 7. So I was right there with everybody rooting for the Rangers. My argument was not about you can't root against them. It's just about, like, I've just moved on from the analogy of they're cheating every year and the only reason they're good is because they're cheating. If you want to keep doing that and sell them short, go for it. But if I want my organization to look at what Houston's doing and say, how are they doing that? Because I genuinely believe they're the best run organization in Major League Baseball right now. And whatever they're doing is clearly working because that's an incredible amount of consistency.
Well, they've hidden the buzzers better, I've heard. The buzz isn't as loud. It's not as much static that picks up on the radio waves. Just little things that I've heard on
Yeah.
the internet, you know?
The garbage cans are smaller than they used to be.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
they're those little ones that are next to the toilet.
Oh, the mini ones. Yeah.
Curveball coming.
Or they were still able to get a bean baller back so he could come in and pitch. And what did he do? He hit a
Dude,
guy.
that
again.
was absolute horse ass that he got tossed and suspended. That was such a BS call.
You're raining on my parade today. I really thought you would be here celebrating with me that they lost that game. And it was embarrassing.
It was hilarious,
They flat
dude.
out didn't show up. They got
No.
their asses handed to them.
It was over in the first inning. It was one of the worst Game 7s I can ever remember. That was a terrible baseball game.
If I'm not mistaken, I don't believe they won a game at home this playoff.
They did not.
year.
Well, I don't know
Did
about all the playoffs. In the series, they did.
I know
They
in this
got one
series.
against the Twins.
Oh, did they?
I think so.
Oh,
They
okay.
became. This is only the second time in baseball history that a series has seen the road team win every game in the entire series.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the only other team that played that series was the Houston Astros, which is the most ironic part about the cheating
Was that the
scandal.
Dodger thing?
No, it was the
Nationals.
Nationals in the World
Nationals, yeah, that's
Series.
right.
When they were still cheating, they lost every game at home and won every game on the road.
Doesn't that make that even sweeter?
Yeah, it also kind of pokes some holes in the fact that they were cheating to win just a little bit.
Well, they got lucky on the road is what that is.
Oh,
And
okay.
You couldn't cheat well enough at home.
Oh,
That's
okay,
what
God,
that
they
is.
needed-
Well, all
cheat
of Major
more,
League
harder.
Baseball is in the stadium for the World Series.
Also, like,
Oh, okay,
they got
yeah,
to another
gotcha.
ALCS. Good job, you beat the Twins. I wish everybody could play the Twins. Notorious choke artists in the playoffs, those Twins.
they ended the losing streak this year.
Oh, they won a game. It's so cute. I'm
How
so
about
glad
the
they
baby
lost.
snakes?
That? Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Wow, I
yeah.
couldn't have been more wrong on that game.
Yeah, the Diamondbacks are going to a Game 7.
Speaking of Game 7 oddities, the Phillies have never played a Game 7.
Ever?
I saw that set
In a-
and it blew my
yeah,
mind.
in
They're
a-
one of like 4 teams in
Wait
the
a minute.
history of baseball that have never played a Game 7.
In an LCS?
In any series,
Any
any
se-
7-game series, they've never played a Game 7.
LCS and World Series are the only series that go 7 games.
Well, I didn't know how it was back in the day. Childhood Sprague would actually respond to this and go, I've always been under the assumption that the Carter walk-off in the World Series against the Phillies was a Game 7.
No.
Game 6.
Game 6.
Wow. That
The
kind of
teams-
ruins the moment for me a little bit. It's taking it down a notch.
There are 5 teams that have never played in a Game 7. The Colorado Rockies,
Yeah.
established in 1993.
Yeah.
The Seattle Mariners,
Well,
because, you know.
we know. Yeah.
San Diego Padres, 1969 establishment. Nice. The Chicago White Sox. Now, they technically played a Game 7 in the 1919 World Series,
Ah.
but that was a 9-game series. So
They used to do best of 9?
They used to do
Yeah.
best of 9, yeah. And
They
that was
should
the
go
World,
back to it.
World Series they cheated in.
Really? We should go
Yes.
back to the best of 9?
No.
Yes.
No, we need to go the other direction.
Well,
I
you
won
need to shorten the
5-4.
regular
Shorter
season,
and sense of urgency is
and
what we
then
need.
longer playoff series, so you have to go through your entire starting rotation.
And the Philadelphia Phillies, established in 1883. They've never played a Game 7.
I hate a lot of teams in sports. I just yesterday watching them lose in that way,
Yes.
it hit me in a way I was like, oh man.
I want to see Adolis Garcia bat flip.
See, here's the thing.
every
You know when
single
you
time.
see the 55-year-old lady at church and her arms are up and she's just moving? Like that's me when the Astros are losing in the playoffs at this point. I'm just like,
Cheating
yes.
bastards.
You've now backed me into a corner where I feel like I have to defend the Houston Astros, which
Why?
is really
Why
uncomfortable.
can't you just jump into the pool
Because
with me?
I hate
Dad's gonna be home in 10 minutes. Don't do it.
this group.
Get in.
This group think stuff drives me nuts sometimes.
What do you mean group
like
think?
Jordan texted in, steroids aren't the same. Every player in the 90s and 2000s was doing steroids. They were the only team who conspired to steal from the rest of the league. Like, if you genuinely believe that, I got some beachfront property in Arizona that I would like to sell you.
How cheap? What's the interest rate?
Like, you
Might be in.
genuinely think that you genuinely believe that the Houston Astros were the only team that did anything to steal signs over the last 10 years in Major League Baseball. They were the only team that used videos, that used cameras, that used iPads. We don't remember the Yankees getting dug up into this. We don't remember the Red Sox getting dug up into this. We don't remember former Dodger players coming out and saying, we kind of did the same thing. We're just going to just gloss over all of that like it never happened.
No, I
Maybe
don't
if they
know
would have
what
been
you're talking
punished.
about.
Oh, okay, yeah,
I have
yeah,
no
sure.
idea what you're
Yeah,
talking about.
that's right. Let's
Maybe they
just
should
move
have
on.
been punished.
Let's just move on.
Maybe a punishment would have not led America to feel this way.
So Michigan should be banned from playing the rest of the season then, right?
That's not the same thing at all.
It's quite literally the same thing. They're
It's-
stealing signs. It's quite literally the same
Actually,
thing.
it sounds like it might be.
It's literally they are illegally putting somebody in the stadium to film the opposing sideline to steal the
Rest of the
signs.
Harbaugh didn't
to
know.
the rest
use-
of the Big Ten's
Harbaugh
about
didn't
ready
know.
to bury Michigan.
Yeah, I mean, signs, no signs. Michigan State would have scored a touchdown at all. if
Literally,
Michigan didn't know.
literally the same thing.
Eh.
They found a Venmo transaction of a GA that they paid to go to the Georgia-Ohio State game.
Okay.
They paid him on Venmo
Yeah.
with the acronym GA.
So my response to that would be, so when the Big Ten gets a hold of all this hardcore evidence that they cheated the same way the Astros cheated, are they just going to come out and slap Harbaugh on the wrist and say no suspension, you're fine to coach?
Hey, that you're totally valid in
That,
arguing.
you
that's
know,
that's a completely fair argument.
But that's the argument. Like, you're playing the devil's advocate to this thing, and I hear what you're saying. They didn't get in trouble for it.
Yeah.
That's why people hate
The
them.
players
That's
didn't.
why people celebrate this.
Yeah.
Well, what did the organization do?
I mean,
Did they get a postseason ban?
They got a
I mean-
seven-figure fine, if I
Oh,
remember
it's so
correctly.
devastating. I got to pay $1 million. Let me get it out of my back safe in my office.
I went to find Mattress Mac, I think.
I mean,
see if he could help
seriously,
him
come
out.
on.
I mean,
What
the
a
GM
joke.
did get fired. I believe the
Oh, he's
manager
a
got
bum
fired.
GM. The manager sucks.
People lost their
AJ
jobs.
Hinch.
What are they doing? What are they doing post Astros?
Isn't Hinch the
He's the
Tigers
manager of the Tigers.
Yeah, how the Tigers
Detroit.
look this year. Take your buzzers to Detroit with you, AJ? You didn't, did you?
Look, I was right there
I
with
hate
you.
this team, and it's so glorious when they lose, and I'm so disappointed in you. Sick has made you weaker. I don't understand what this is.
I hope your team gets caught in a cheating scandal. I genuinely hope this happens.
Well, we'll be cheating. We'll be trying.
oh yeah, of course. It's not my team. Yeah.
Hopefully we don't get punished for it when we get caught.
As somebody who's rooted for a lot of cheaters in their life, I don't like making fun of cheaters.
I hate this. I don't like this version of you. You defending
This is like Oregon
cheaters.
State fan acting like they wouldn't want to cheat in recruiting to get 5-star recruits.
Nah, we're built, not bought.
That's right.
Come on,
Give me
lunch pail
2
you.
stars. That's right. I wouldn't want to play in a Rose Bowl.
I'm gonna eat my sandwich on the high beam. That's what we do. That's all we do. Lunch pail you.
How's that working for you?
Well, you know, I'm nervous as hell, but we're not gonna win Saturday.
We'll get to the big story today.
I'm a wreck. No, let's not talk about that.
Let's talk
story.
about that.
The Pac-2
Maybe if
future.
you would have cheated
I
in
need to
recruiting, you
put
wouldn't be there.
Gloria now on the show.
Ah, damn it. I still hate the Houston Astros.
That's
I
fair.
do too. I
That's
will always
okay.
hate the Houston Astros.
That was fun. Good for the Rangers. I hope they win it. I'm
See,
rooting for the
Swag at
Rangers.
least has a valid one because they beat his team in the World Series.
Yes.
Well, I mean, you can thank me and my team for beating them in the World Series. Probably felt good, America.
I
Watching the
did.
Braves win.
Everybody rooted for the Atlanta Braves in that series.
Let's get to the dirty poll. I'm sure I'm going to hate this too. You just pissed me off today. I'm still happy they lost. Can't take it out of me. Dirty poll is next, but first, Swag with the sports update.
Now, from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
First on the Fan, a rare Monday night win for Kirk Cousins, who without Justin Jefferson torched the 49ers' vaunted defense, 378 yards, 2 touchdowns, guiding the Vikings to a 22-17 win. Rookie wide receiver Jordan Addison picked up the slack with 7 catches for a $123 in both scores. Ducks linebacker Mateo Uiagalelei named Pac-12 Freshman of the Week for his contribution to Oregon's 38-24 win over Washington State. Had 2 tackles for loss, including his first career sack. The Texas Rangers back in the World Series for the first time since 2011. They pummeled the Houston Astros 11-3 in the deciding Game 7 of the ALCS. Adolis Garcia, named Series MVP, was 4 of 5 with 2 home runs and 5 RBI in the clinching game. Texas will face the winner of tonight's NLCS Game 7 after the Diamondbacks got to Aaron Nola early, taking Game 6 5-1. Pre-game on 910 ESPN Portland at 4:30. First pitch 5:07 on the eve of the NBA regular season. Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis Antetokounmpo agreeing to a 3-year, $186 million contract extension with a player option for the 2027-2028 season. And that season does tip off tonight, a TNT doubleheader. 4:30, the defending champion Nuggets host the Lakers. Denver a 5.5-point favorite at the Spirit Mountain Casino Sportsbook. The Nightcaps in San Francisco at 7. The Warriors host the Suns. Golden State 1.5-point favorites. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. Jason Swigart from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk. Spirit Mountain Casino brings you big games on big screens with big-time sports betting action. Learn more at spiritmountain.com.
Tired of getting dinged by subscriptions? We won't send you a bill. Portland's
alley. Actually, right up both our alleys. But it's a valid point as well. Thanks to all the support on the anti-Astros rhetoric. I love it. We should all just hate them together, and Dirt's over here just trying to wave his Astros flag loud and proud.
I think part of me feels a bit of a kindred spirit to them because of the way that post-career Barry Bonds has been treated.
What team of yours is like cheat? You act like you're rooting for all these cheating teams. Who are they? Why do you feel this need to defend cheaters so harsh?
Well, it's not even that. It's just simply that, like, the way that Bonds has been treated post-career is something it's a real bothersome thing for me because of what he meant to Major League Baseball. And I feel like we look back on that era, not all of us, but some of us do.
Okay.
As if he was, because he was the best, the only one that cheated. I feel like we've whitewashed that entire era of Major League Baseball from our minds, and we now have known steroid users going into the Hall of Fame. But arguably the greatest player in the history of the sport can't get 70% of the vote because he was the best at cheating, even though he was a Hall of Fame player before. This is the only point that I will bring up, and I will maintain. I hate the Houston Astros. I enjoyed watching them lose yesterday. The notion that they were the only team that cheated is flat out ridiculous. Now, did they go to more extreme extents than maybe some other teams? Sure. But if you firmly believe in your heart of hearts that they were the only team that cheated, God bless you, man. God bless you.
And my only response is, where was that attitude 10 minutes ago of you enjoyed it as well? And
I literally said that to open the segment. I gambled on the Rangers and I rooted for the Rangers. I wanted to see Bochy win.
I think you're way wrong on this, and Swag's a Dodger fan, so maybe Swag agrees with me or you. I think people talk about the cheating stuff with Bonds, but I think largely if you polled Americans who love sports and watched it, he would be a Hall of Famer in 80+% of that poll.
That's fair. He's not a Hall of Famer.
But it's not us. That's the voting problem. That's like 14 media members have allowed you to sit here today.
It's way more than that. It's
well,
way
whatever
more than
it is.
Sure.
It's people who are idiots who benefited from that era, not acknowledging how great a baseball player he was even pre getting bigger. But most of them, Eric, don't let that cloud how you think people view it. I think most people think he should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I find it funny, and I chuckle from time to time when we scapegoat one person or one institution as if they are the only cheaters.
Well, let me scapegoat him. It feels good.
It's like if somebody gets caught cheating in recruiting, are we going to believe that they're the only team that cheats? Like
No.
Texas A&M is the only team buying recruits. They're the only team spending money.
What do they say in college football? You ain't cheating?
You ain't trying.
You ain't trying. Let's get to the dirty poll.
Okay, you ready?
The top 10 dirty poll. We didn't do it last week because it was unmoved.
No, it was unmoved. There wasn't a lot going on. I got it on my phone, so
Okay.
I got to pull it up here. Hold on. All right, are we ready?
Yep.
All right, starting at number 10. This is a weird weekend. North Carolina lost to Virginia. North Carolina was in the top 10 last week.
Virginia didn't have an FBS win.
No, they didn't.
And I said to Swag off the air yesterday, North Carolina should be unranked this week because of that performance.
Yeah, that's a little aggressive in my mind. A little aggressive.
I would have said the same thing about Washington. Don't lose games
You
to
would have
teams.
unranked them?
Dude.
You would have bumped them from the top 5 to unranked?
You cannot lose games at this
Unranked.
point of the season
So, like,
to teams that haven't beaten FBS opponents. That's embarrassing.
3-loss LSU should be ranked ahead of Washington.
Sure, I don't give a crap.
Number 10, we'll steamroll through this thing. Number 10, Alabama continues to survive somehow, some way. This was another example this weekend. I made the analogy multiple times. Like, at some point, you got to kill them. At some point, you got to do it. Nobody's done it yet. Alabama comes in at number 10. Tennessee had, a 21-0 lead? I don't remember what it was in that game, but they got off to a great start. They come in at number 10. Number 9, I'm not feeling great about the way that they played this weekend, and they got to go a week without their starting quarterback, but Texas remains in the top 10. They are number 9. They barely beat Houston, and they got absolutely lucky. Houston got hosed on that third down spot. They should have got a first down. Caused a fourth down. They did end up winning the game. Number 8 in the dirty polls. We move on. We got Oregon at number 8. They beat Washington State. Should have covered the spread. Don't get me started on that. I'm glad I wasn't here to bemoan that crap yesterday.
We mentioned it.
God, that was so stupid.
We
So
knew that was
freaking
going to
stupid.
happen. They did it last year.
No, you didn't. They should have covered the damn
We
spread.
literally said on air, Cam Ward, backdoor cover, it's right there. Swag talked me back into taking Washington State.
And if you run the ball on 3rd and 3, they don't cover the spread, and it doesn't happen. You freaking bastards. I hate you both. Oregon is number 8. Number 7 in the dirty poll. Moving on. Let's see. What do we got here? I think I'm missing a team. I only have 9 teams this week. We're a little discombobulated. Let's just jump up to number 6. Number 6 is Michigan. Michigan still hasn't beaten anybody. Like, beat a ranked team, beat a team with a winning record, and then talk to me. They're number 6. Washington is number 5. They're undefeated, and I'm not going to punish them from the loss, or the win, I should say, last week, although it felt like a loss against Arizona State. Dude, like, come on, score an offensive touchdown. And then the top 4 remains unchanged. I know not all these teams played great. Oklahoma's at number 4. They were lucky, but they got a great resume so far this season. Florida State, another team that was incredibly lucky. If Riley Leonard does not get hurt in that game, I think Florida State loses at home. Number 2 is Ohio State, and number 1 is Georgia.
So Penn State was in the top 10. They lost.
Penn State was in the top 10.
That's probably
They're
the
not out.
team you forgot to replace.
I didn't replace. Well, North Carolina would have been in. I was looking. I was like, I forgot to replace them. So I don't know who to replace them with right now.
Well, I would bump everybody up a notch, and you could just put Oregon State at 10.
I could put Oregon State at 10.
Or you go Ole Miss.
I'm not going Ole Miss. The team that I would
Utah?
I would consider Utah, but then you have the weird head-to-head thing with them and Oregon State. I'm going to leave 10 open.
Okay.
There's an open audition for number 10 this weekend in Tucson, Arizona. We'll see if Oregon State can grab it.
Oh man. I
You
hope
beat
they do.
Arizona at Arizona, you're number 10. I'll give you that.
It's the weirdest thing to say, like, Oregon State wins that game. I'm going to feel like they beat a top 10 team, even though Arizona's largely unranked.
What are they, 4-3, I think, on the year?
Yeah.
That's a team that's above 500 that if you don't play your best, they will beat you.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially on the road.
There we go, the dirty poll. Coming up next, nobody knows what the hell's happening, and anger is everywhere. That's next on The Fan.
This is Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
We have a lot to get to in the second hour of the show. Dirt's read from the Pac-12 weekend that was coming up at 7:15. But I talked some NFL yesterday. College was fine, but I thought the NFL was interesting as well. And I've come to the conclusion the Niners lose last night, and really the Vikings did an exceptional job up front blocking that defensive line. Kirker's had all the time in the world. He carved him up. He just did.
Dude, he was awesome last night. Kirk Cousins was terrific.
You really could make an argument. I read this in the Star Tribune in Minneapolis. You could make an argument that was the best game of his career.
You really could. I was cracking up too because I got a buddy who's a diehard Vikings fan who was texting me in the first half saying, "You're not doing anything to help our chances of Caleb Williams or Drake May." And I just responded laughing and said, Kirk Cousins is playing the game of his life right now. And all you're trying to do is replace him. You think that's going to solve your issues? Okay. I mean, I get it, but be careful what you wish for.
Well, here you said something to start the show, and I think it's a pretty spot-on analysis of sports radio and sports media in general, because how many weeks do we pull something, hey, this is what so-and-so said on Friday. This is what so-and-so said on Thursday. And we Sprague the line. We make picks. Sometimes we're wrong. Sometimes we're right. I'm at a point now where I can just comfortably tell you zero. Jeff Schwartz, Ryan Clark, Joe Thomas, Richard Sherman. I mean, you name anybody you want. It doesn't matter to me. None of them, 0% of people know what the hell is going to happen in the NFL.
Nobody has.
I'm done acting like I know.
Nobody has.
I'm done pretending that what? Who the hell are the Buffalo Bills? What the hell are the Buffalo Bills? Are the Minnesota Vikings good again? Their schedule kind of lines up. Is the backup for the Chicago Bears better than the starting quarterback for the Chicago Bears? Is Brandon Staley going to get fired? Is he not going to get fired? Are the Seahawks good? I don't know. The Steelers have an offense again? Maybe, but maybe not.
Just throw it to George Pickens on every play.
I don't know anything, and nobody knows anything in the NFL, and it's uncomfortable, but it's also kind of wild and fun.
You know, it's so funny. So going back to the Oregon-Washington game, the sentiment from Oregon fans coming out of that game was it's a one-score game, one play here, one play there, you get a different outcome, right? Like that's the feeling, and that's why it's so emotionally painful to lose a game like that, because you were that close to winning it. I thought Kirk Cousins hit the nail on the head after that game yesterday, where he was asked about their season and the way that they're playing. And he said, man, this is a one play here, one play there league. You know, Minnesota they're now 3-4 on the season. You know, all 4 of their losses are one possession games.
They went undefeated in those spots last year, though, so it's kind of like history correcting itself.
We all thought that was going to even out. You're not going to win all of them, but the other reality is you're not going to lose all of them either. Like, eventually you're going to get the bounce. Minnesota largely won that game last night because they basically hit a Hail Mary at the end of the first half. I still don't know how they scored a touchdown on that play. I don't know why the 49ers called an all-out zero blitz on that play with a few seconds to go. How Ward didn't get that interception doesn't make any sense to me. But you have Addison steal the ball away. He scores a touchdown as time basically expires. That ended up being the difference in the game. If they don't get it, they don't win. Those are the fine margins that decide NFL games. It comes down to a play here, a play there, a bounce here, a bounce there. This is a one-score league largely. Every game is within 7 points.
Yep.
Look at the Jags and the Saints. They had a tight end drop a ball in the back of the end zone on third down. If he catches it, you go to overtime. Maybe the Saints win the game. Like, this is how fine the margins are week in and week out in the NFL, and that's why nobody has a damn clue what the hell's going to happen.
But I can go through every team. I can watch these TV shows, NFL Live, with some of the best minds that cover this sport. Like Orlovsky, if he's not doing a TV radio hit right now as we talk, he's watching a film session. And these people go on TV and then end up not being correct. But I don't think it's for lack of trying or knowledge. Like, is Tyrod Taylor better than Daniel Jones? Are they better to just start Tyrod Taylor?
Probably.
Are the Commanders going to respond from that crap fest and then be a good team again?
Or are we backing them this weekend? Are we left hand up?
I'm just saying, like, it's Desmond Ridder, to me, looks like not a good quarterback, and they are 4-3.
Yeah, they won this weekend.
I don't know how what was the Ravens-Lions game? I don't know. Is Lamar the MVP? Sunday he was. I don't know if he will be the next Sunday. It's just I like it, and there's an element of it that I don't. The element of it that I don't is reading and looking up numbers and seeing depth and listening to podcasts and feeling like I got a grasp on it, and then sitting down to watch 7 hours of commercial-free football and being wrong now on all of it. None of it matters.
It's pure chaos week in and week out.
Yes, it is.
Like, this is, we started with the season with a survivor pool of roughly 40 people. And the survivor pool is not that you can only pick a team once. It's just you can't pick a team back-to-back weeks. That's the only challenge until week 9. We're through week 7. There's only 6 people left, man.
Yeah.
6. Like, that's how much chaos
I'm surprised
is in
it went
league.
this long.
Look, I think the other aspect of it is that you're going to get, throughout the course of an 18-week schedule, I think part of the tough dilemma of figuring out what's going to happen in the NFL is who has more pressure and more of a sense of urgency. Like, I think last night was a really good example of this. The 49ers, I know they're coming off a loss against the Browns, but they're still banged up. Their best offensive lineman is out. Deebo Samuel did not play in that game. Like, they're missing some really key players. That last night, if you want to really boil it down, that was Minnesota's season. Like, that's it. You fall to, what were they, 2-4 going in? You fall to 2-5 in the same division as the Lions. Like, goodbye, man. Your season's done. I don't care how manageable the rest of the year is for you. You're going to lose a couple of those games that you probably shouldn't lose. They had to win last night. Everything that they put into that game was, this is our season. This is basically an elimination game. Mm-hmm. And they played like it. They were fantastic, man. They ran the ball. They haven't been able to do that all year. Defensively, they forced Brock Purdy to throw a couple of picks. One of them wasn't great. The other one's like, whatever, you're forcing it at the end of the game. Kirk Cousins was outstanding. Like, they played an unbelievable football game because their season was on the line. When the reality for the 49ers is, I saw some people tweeting, what's the excuse for Brock Purdy now? Like, okay, great, now we're doing that.
Well, he's lost his last 2, so we're here.
Oh, God, here we go.
If it's not perfect, Brock can't win.
2 weeks ago, he was the MVP. Now it's, what's the excuse? This guy sucks.
It was Brocktober. It's getting close to Brovember.
I can't handle the overreactions in both ways. It is so stupid. Don't overreact to things in the NFL. But that was not a game that the 49ers need to win. I know that sounds stupid, but they're going to be fine. They're going to win the division. The 49ers lose a couple of these games every year.
Every year they lose dumb games.
They drop a couple of games. You're like, I remember, like, was it last year they lost at home to the Falcons? There's like a couple of those. You're just
they lost to the Broncos team last year at Denver.
What the hell is this? Yeah. And then you look up and they're in the NFC Championship game because they're one of the best teams in the NFL. They're going to be fine. There was just more of a sense of urgency from Minnesota last night.
But this is kind of my point, though, is it's frustrating and loud when people talk about Brock Purdy today, and there's a lot of that noise. Dirt, it's because we've watched him be good for so long that when he starts to be bad, we can't believe it. We're like, wait, is he not good? I thought he was really good. He's lost 2 games. They're not games they should have lost.
No.
But I think what you saw yesterday from San Francisco was, where's the area of weakness? It's depth. What's their wide receiver depth? Ayuk didn't even get the most targets. It was Jawan Jennings.
Mm-hmm.
Ray McLeod. Like, their wide receiver depth, not great. Not great.
No, that's totally fair.
McCaffrey, I mean, largely his whole career, he's get injured. He played yesterday, but he's got this oblique thing that he said's kind of like a partial
Kittle
tear.
looked a little banged up.
Well, Kittle takes massive hits every time. He's a down-the-middle tight end. You know what he is that Kelsey is not? He is a run down the middle, catch the ball, take a massive hit. Not, I'm going to make my own route up and just find space, get the ball, and either turn and run or fall to the ground and get 8 yards. Like, Kelsey's really good at that. But Kittle doesn't play that way. Kittle plays like a WWE wrestler with his hair on fire.
Yeah, it's just hilarious to me how we know how chaotic this league can be. We know how much parity that exists.
Doesn't it feel a little more chaotic
this
than
is
others?
the way it is every year.
I feel like it is more chaotic.
That's a caught in the moment thing, dude. This is what the NFL is every single season.
Swag, what do you think? Is this the same usual NFL, or does it feel a little more chaotic and unpredictable?
No, I think it's like this. Maybe it's different teams getting caught up in different things. We're not used to the Lions being on top of the NFC North, but when the Packers ruled it forever, they would invariably go somewhere and just lay a giant egg in an inopportune time.
They would randomly lose to the Lions like once a year. You're like, okay, well, they just can't beat the Lions
That
there.
doesn't make any sense. The other aspect of this, too, on the Purdy angle, it's like it's really hard to be an NFL quarterback. And you're not going to be perfect every single game. I know that's a shocking statement, but it's quite literally impossible to be perfect every single week in the NFL.
Especially when you're starting left tackles out and the opposing team blitzes on every down.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
I want it. What's the most blitzing team in the NFL by a very wide margin? The Minnesota Vikings. I want to talk about something you put down there, and I got another thing from the NFL that's right up our alley. We're going to relate to it a lot. Hour number 2, and then we'll get Dirt's reaction from the Pac-12 weekend. Loaded second hour. Max Chadwick at 7:30. Dirt and Sprague on the Fan.
Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
First on the Fan, Kirk Cousins, just his 3rd win on Monday Night Football in 13 career games. But he looked like it was old hat without Justin Jefferson. Rang up 378 yards and 2 touchdowns against the 49ers in a 22-17 win. Rookie wide receiver Jordan Addison, 7 catches, 123 yards, and caught both scores. Texas Rangers back in the World Series for the first time since 2011. They pummeled the Houston Astros 11-3 in a deciding Game 7 in the ALCS. Adolis Garcia, named the series MVP, went 4 for 5 with 2 home runs and 5 RBI in that clinching game. Bruce Bochy has never lost a Game 7. Texas will face the winner of tonight's NLCS Game 7, something the Phillies have never experienced after they got beat 5-1 in Game 6. It'll be a former Hop, Brandon Pfaadt, taking the ball for the Diamondbacks. First pitch, 5:07. Pre-game coverage on 910 ESPN Portland at 4:30. The NBA season set to tip off tonight with a TNT doubleheader. First up, 4:30. The defending champion Nuggets will hoist their first NBA champions banner to the rafters, then take on the Lakers. They are 5.5-point favorites at the Spirit Mountain Casino Sportsbook. Nightcap by the Bay, 7 o'clock. Warriors and Suns. Golden State, 2.5-point favorites. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. Jason Swigard from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk. Spirit Mountain Casino brings you big games on big screens with big-time sports betting action. Learn more at spiritmountain.com.
This is your home for year-round NFL coverage. The Odyssey app and 1080 The Fan. This is Dirt and Sprague.
Guys, this weekend ain't about frickin' stocks and bonds. It's about football. It's about getting your ass up off of your lazy ass, yelling for your team, and saying, let's go, Vols! Damn it!
With Andy Dirt Johnson and Brendan Sprague.
And for the love of God, people, quit doing the frickin' wave. Are you kidding me? The wave? Jesus. Nobody does the wave anymore. Yeah, the Billy Bobs do it in NASCAR at the racetrack because there's nothing else to do there except and watch the damn cars go in circles and wait for a wreck.
Dirt and Sprague on 1080.
Damn it, son! Do y'all hear me?
The Fan.
All right, welcome back in. Hour number 2. It always flies right by that first hour. You can check it at the Service Patriots podcast. Check out the latest special offers for your deals at servicepatriots.com/1080thefan. They got some good deals going on. Thank you for all the great texts. The Vancouver Ford text line, 503-864-6326. And thanks, everybody, tuning in, hopping on, and hanging out with us on YouTube, youtube.com/1080thefan.
Feels good to be back and being called an idiot all morning. I love it, dude. I missed you guys.
Don't turn against the world when we're all rooting for the same thing.
Sometimes we got to argue, you know?
You mentioned something. I read a piece going into last night's game on Kirk Cousins and Kyle Shanahan. There's this unique relationship. They drafted him the same year they drafted RG3, and every report suggests, and they basically have admitted this at this point, that he really wanted him when he got the San Francisco job. He was like, oh, Kirkers, get here.
And then Jimmy Garoppolo went undefeated, and their hand was forced.
They reacted too strongly to it. They made a mistake with Trey Lance. What you saw last night was what you mentioned, a desperate Minnesota team. What you also saw on the other side, no matter how you want to slice it, is Kirk Cousins 2.0. And I say that not as a slight to Brock Purdy, but Kyle Shanahan basically echoed the exact same sentiment this week in media day going up to the game and said, asked for qualities of Brock Purdy that are somewhat like Kirk Cousins. And Shanahan said, quote, very similar. They're very, very similar in a lot of ways. So what Shanahan did was he went and found his own Kirk Cousins late in the draft. There was a report written that Shanahan has a specific type of quarterback that he has to have operate his offense. Otherwise, he loses trust and he loses it quickly. He also doesn't have a lot of patience. And so what I find interesting about the Niners, they're a really good team. We'll see if they stay healthy. I'm curious to see if he's going to get a Super Bowl out of this because he's kind of bucking the trend a bit as a coach. Every other coach, including the best one right now in Andy Reid, understands you need a quarterback, but you need one that's a little different and special. Whereas Shanahan is operating of, I'm the best thing that we can do to win a Super Bowl, so I'm going to go get the quarterback that just does anything I say. There are people legitimately that think Brock Purdy just does exactly what Shanahan asks. Hey, throw the out here. He's going to be open for 6 yards. Hey, dump it to McCaffrey here on the delay.
Yeah.
Hey, do this, do that. And that's what he does. That's why he's good. He's just efficient. He does what Shanahan asks. I'll be curious to see if this actually rewards them with a Super Bowl versus finding the quarterback that pushes the meter a little bit, does things a little unorthodox, does things outside of the Shanahan purview, and goes and actually wins them a game when Shanahan calls a play, but they don't actually execute that play.
Yeah, it's funny that when you say that they have found their own Kirk Cousins, I think a lot of people would view that as a negative of like, oh, that's the best that you can do. I view that as a positive.
Can you win a Super Bowl that way? Is kind of my point.
I think you can. Now, it doesn't mean that you're guaranteed to win one, but you got damn close with Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo, in my opinion, is not better than Kirk Cousins. And I think Brock Purdy has already proven that he can be more efficient in that offense than Jimmy Garoppolo was. Yes, having Christian McCaffrey helps. But I think Kirk Cousins is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. I've always felt that way. He just hasn't always had the best around him in terms of his defense sucks. His offensive line hasn't been very good. And if the NFL teaches us anything year in and year out, is that these guys need help, man. You need to surround them with things that are going to help them win. And so when you tell me that the 49ers have found their Kirk Cousins, who, by the way, is making the amount of money that a 7th-round NFL draft pick makes, I view that as an incredible positive. Like, that's their angle. It's not necessarily that we don't have to have a difference maker at quarterback, because I do think Brock Purdy possesses the capability of being that. It's also, on top of that, we have a good quarterback who can run our offense efficiently, and we're paying him $800,000, which allows us to go sign X, Y, and Z and have one of the best defensive lines in the NFL and make sure Christian McCaffrey's a 49er and re-sign Deebo Samuel, re-sign Bosa, make sure Fred Warner's under contract for a long time. Eventually, you're going to have to pay the piper. Eventually, Brock Purdy will come up and you're going to have to figure out how much is he worth, how much is he going to, demand and all that. That will eventually be a problem for them, but not right now. It's not. And so I think as long as you have a quarterback that can function in that offense at a high level, which he has clearly proven that he can, they're going to be fine. This is, to me, the reaction to the 49ers losing a couple of games is hilarious. Like, I go back to that game last night. You have the opening drive after you get a pick. You just manhandle an interception away from Jordan Addison. You drive inside the 20-yard line, and what happens? Christian McCaffrey fumbles. Okay, if he doesn't fumble there, you score a touchdown, you're up 7-0, just like that. Second drive, you drive the ball down again with an opportunity to tie the game because I believe Minnesota scored on their second drive. Mm-hmm. What happens? You settle for a field goal, your kicker's dealing with some stuff right now, and he misses a kick. Like, that's 10 points that were on the board right out of the gate. You lost the game by 5 points. Like, again, we go back to the conversation that these games are won around the margins. It's not Brock Purdy's fault that Christian McCaffrey fumbled on the 15-yard line going in, but you lose the game and everybody says, what's wrong with Brock Purdy? Can he do? I don't know. What's the excuse now? Like, the overreaction that's going to take place to me is hilarious. Brock Purdy is perfect for that offense, and if any coach in the NFL wants to tell me that they can figure out a way to do it and they don't need a Patrick Mahomes at quarterback, I would trust Kyle Shanahan to figure it out.
The funny thing is, they had a thing on ESPN.com last week comparing Brock Purdy's yearly salary of $800 and some change $1,000 to every other starting quarterback and how long it takes them to make that amount. Kirk Cousins is 30 minutes. 2 quarters, and Kirk Cousins makes what Brock Purdy makes in a year. That's the difference financially.
And that's why Minnesota has a hard time winning. Like, that's the whole argument against a guy like Kirk Cousins is that I think Kirk Cousins is a top 10 guy. We don't need to get into that debate again. The problem is you're paying him to be better than he is. Like, that's the tough part with winning with quarterbacks like Kirk Cousins and Dak Prescott. There's a million examples like this where they're overpaid. They're not worth that much money, and it restricts your ability unless you hit the absolute home run lottery in the draft.
Right.
Like, you're just going to have a really hard time putting a Super Bowl roster around a guy like that.
So I had mentioned earlier, we just don't know what the hell is going on in the NFL, what teams are good or great. Like, everybody can come in and say, no, Buffalo's good. Buffalo's lost, but Buffalo's good. Go look at their losses. They're not particularly great losses. They've lost to Zach Wilson and Mac Jones.
You sure about that?
So, I think it's such an easy thing to respond. Oh, the Eagles are good. Oh, okay. I could also see the Eagles losing in the divisional round in the playoffs. Like, I don't think anybody really knows. I think we just say what we feel, and then half the time we end up being wrong. I want you to take a listen to this. I heard this yesterday, and I was literally laughing out loud listening to this by myself with headphones on. I want you to tell me if you can tell what this individual did to lead him to this kind of passionate rant. So this is about the Atlanta Falcons, who went to Tampa today, narrowly won, but a specific player did not play much, and I want you to take a listen.
Injury report, a report where you are supposed to say whether a player is injured or not. So when Bijan Robinson tells the media, I woke up on Sunday morning and on Saturday night I started to feel it, and I didn't really feel myself. I didn't feel like myself. Like, the Falcons are required to report that to the media. They are required to report it. So let's say that, like, 11:45, Adam Schefter tweets, Mike Garafolo, Tom Pelissero tweets, Bijan Robinson is sick. they don't know how much he's going to get used in the game today. Okay, now the decision is incumbent on me, like the person who's managing the team or is making the prop bets or doing the DFS lineup. Now I can make the decision and say, okay, like what do I think's going to happen? And then I can live with whatever happens in the game because I have been presented with the information. But like to not get the information and to have the game start and for this bozo Arthur Smith to say, oh yeah, I just didn't feel well, we'll have more for you tomorrow. Like, hey buddy, like you don't have to care about fantasy football and care about my bets. Like you do have to fill out an injury report. Like this is pretty flagrant what they did yesterday. And yeah, like it is personal for me because it screwed me in a couple fantasy leagues. I know it screwed a lot of people yesterday. Like no one's saying that anyone has to make decisions based on like what people bet in games. No, if you are saying that, you're way off base. But like, can we at least get the information? Can you at least report that the guy is sick? Can we get that before the game starts? So we're not wondering 2 series into the game, why is Cordero Patterson running ahead of Bijan? Why is Tyler Algier getting all the count? What's happening here?
Can you tell who Nick Costos was gambling on?
Yeah, well, it wasn't the Falcons because they covered and they won, but he was probably
He had Bijan
in all of his
Yeah,
props and in
all
his
his
fantasy
props.
lineups.
Yeah.
Look, I love Nick Costos. His passion is hilarious. This one, to me, is the gray area.
He's right. No. He's
hold on.
right. It's funny, but he's right.
See, I will agree with you in terms of an actual injury. I think this came to light with the quarterback documentary on Netflix. Kirk Cousins was hurt all year with a rib injury and internal chest injury.
I think it's something to monitor with Washington now.
Totally. And the Vikings all season never talked about it. He didn't show up on the injury report. Like it was never a thing for them. But when you watch that documentary, you clearly see all season it affected him and it never showed up on the injury report. This one, I think, is a little bit different. This is a guy that says he's sick on Saturday, the night before the game. So what do you want him to do?
They have injury reports for Sunday morning, though.
Sure.
You could say questionable. His point is right here. You could say woke up not feeling great, questionable, or we'll see how Falcons. Because he's right. Once the information's known, it's up to you to make the decision on props, bets,
That's
all
fair.
that stuff.
That's fair. I don't view this quite as like the dude was dealing with an injury all week. They didn't disclose it. And then on Sunday, you're like, why didn't he play? Well, he has an ankle injury. This was the night before the game. He was sick. He probably thought he was going to be able to play on Sunday. Woke up and was like, no, I don't know. Went through warmups. He had a carry in the game. He clearly tried to give it a go, but he wasn't impactful and he didn't feel healthy enough.
But where he's right, though, is that the NFL teams do this because of their partnerships with gambling and fantasy sports.
Yeah.
And that's why this is really important information. I would view it as an injury. I think it's the same thing as having a sprained ankle, to be honest with you. He didn't play. He played like 3 snaps.
Yeah.
It was really weird what they did, and nobody knew what was going on. The broadcast was Chris Myers. He wasn't saying anything about Bijan not playing. It was a really odd situation. And you don't have to care about the gambling side or the fantasy football side. That's okay. But he's right here. You cannot be getting in bed with these people and then not releasing that information. Make other people make the choice. Don't not release the information.
I would love to see Nick Costos do this rant at an actual Arthur Smith press conference and see how he responds.
I don't think Costos would care. I
No,
think
he wouldn't care.
I think he'd want Arthur Smith to try to challenge him on this because it's a bit ridiculous when you get to games and these guys don't play.
Yeah. It's a really weird gray area with how in bed you are with gambling.
I'm worried about Saturday. I kind of want to hammer the Ducks on the road, but now I'm like, why is Lanning keep talking about Bucky Irving? And I know he looked like he got knocked out, but man, he's mentioning Bucky Irving a little too much here. Is Bucky Irving going to randomly not play on? He tried, but we couldn't give it a go yet. Like, damn it. I didn't know Bucky wasn't playing.
Said he was a full go in practice yesterday, so believe what you want to believe.
I know. We'll see. I love it, though. It's a proper rant, that's for sure.
Dio said there's a number you can call if you have a problem with the injury report. Yes, there is. Gamblers Anonymous.
The voicemail is just full of Costos going off. Bijan, why didn't Bijan play? Coming up next, Dirt's takeaways and views of the Pac-12 weekend. He wasn't here yesterday, so we'll dive into that next. Max Chadwick at the bottom of the hour, PFF college football guy, next on The Fan.
Seahawks football is on the Fan.
I went down to St. James Infirmary.
This is Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
Well, Dirt, the Pac-12 weekend is come and gone. We're on to the next round of games. Oregon's got Utah. Oregon State down at the desert.
It's a massive weekend, man.
It is.
This could be our team's season this weekend.
Yeah, it could be. I kind of like the matchup for your team against their opponent. I know it's not an easy place to play. I don't expect this to be a massive blowout or anything. I think styles make fights. I thought Utah was the wrong matchup for a USC, whereas I'm not as convinced the pig farmer's going to be doing as much damage to a defense in Oregon as he did to the defense down in SoCal. What was your takeaway from the weekend, though? Washington barely beating Arizona State.
Craziness, man.
Oregon, bit of a slow start, but then got it going and, never really looked back against Washington State. What was your takeaway from the weekend?
Well, I think it's the takeaway that I had was there's a difference there when you're having an off game or a letdown game, which I think none of us were surprised that Washington or Oregon had this weekend. That was such a heavyweight down to the last second fight that if you told me both of them come out flat and you're sluggish in the first half, I'm not surprised in the least by that. It happens every week in college football. The difference is when you have the ability to run the football and be more physical up front, you can kind of overcome it. Like, look at the Oregon-Washington State game as an example. Opening drive, they moved it great. You get down there, you kick a field goal, you miss it. Like, all right, that's a lingering issue. Let's try and figure that thing out. You get back down there the next time, you settle again for a field goal, you make that one. I think there's a bigger takeaway of we got to figure out red zone offense and scoring touchdowns on those drives because it costs you against Washington. You find yourself down 10-3. I can't remember if it was late first quarter, early second quarter, whenever it was. And what did Oregon do on their third drive? They ran the ball on literally every play. Run, play, run, play, run, touchdown.
How'd that go for them? Yeah.
And they scored with ease. And then you look at the Washington game late at night, like this is the difficult part that they're going to have from time to time. And I thought the Oregon game was an eye-opener of they ran the ball well in that game. They had a 100-yard rusher. That was something they didn't really have all season. And so to find some balance offensively, I thought that was a step in the right direction for them. Dude, to have 13 carries for 13 yards against Arizona State is a major red flag because you're going to have games when your passing attack is a little off, whether it's Penix is slightly banged up right now and they're just not talking about it, whether it was the letdown factor, whether it was the weather. I don't know what the excuse was, but they were not good throwing the football. They had one of those weird deflected interceptions that those are going to happen from time to time. The other one was not a good pick. But you have to have the ability to say, okay, look, it's raining, it's late, we're playing Arizona State, hand the damn ball off and go get 6 yards. Just win at the line of scrimmage. If you can't do that against ASU, it's a concern. And so I thought that showed having the ability to be balanced on offense is incredibly helpful. The USC game, though, was the highlight of the weekend.
The pig farmer?
Watching Utah go on the road and beat them and seeing Lincoln Riley complain the entire game about Utah's substitution techniques, watching him not bring any players out to talk to the media, acting as if this is a total rebuild despite the fact that he brought in the best player in the sport with him and Caleb Williams, who won the Heisman Trophy, and everything that they're talking about is an abject failure and disaster this season because they still have more challenging games to go against Washington, against Oregon, against UCLA, which none of them are guarantees. Like, that's legitimately a team that could go 7-5 this year.
Yeah, they might be 8-4, 7-5.
And it would be hilarious because they were everybody's favorite at the start of the year because of Caleb Williams and Lincoln Riley. Mm-hmm. And once again, their defense bit them in the ass. Utah couldn't move the ball against anybody other than Cal. And maybe they show this weekend against Oregon that they figured some stuff out. Vaki moving to offense is a game changer. Like, that dude's a nightmare right now to cover. And I do think having Barnes at quarterback is the right move for them. Unquestionably, he's way better than Nate Johnson.
I couldn't believe that he was ever behind Nate Johnson.
Like, what was that, dude?
I don't know.
Like, this even happened in the Oregon State game. They played Nate Johnson for almost all of it, and then they brought in Barnes, and he drove him down the field. And I remember Swag texting of, like, why isn't this dude starting? And he ended up throwing a pick on that drive, and you're like, well, that's why.
Well, he also played very poorly
in the Baylor game. In the Baylor game, he sucked.
He was awful.
That, to me, was an overreaction, though, because he was pretty good against Florida, and then they benched him after one bad game. And Nate Johnson just can't throw the football, and like, you have to be able to throw the ball.
If there was ever a time for Lincoln, if Lincoln is not checked out the way I think he is, I think he's going to the NFL. I think when you see teams collapse like this, I think it's Caleb now kind of eyeing his draft stock. He'll put up numbers. Lincoln dealing with stuff off the field with negotiations and agent talk. I have no other reason to believe that you're not doing that, because at what point is the defensive coach not put in question here? That team had one thing to do on offense to beat USC. Run the football. all right, great. We're going to prevent it. And I know he hit a couple throws and he had some runs of his own. But largely it was Utah's offense was, we're going to run the football with our safety. And we're still going to somehow score 30-plus points and we're going to win the football game. How, if you truly care about your program and you want to turn your season around, how do you not fire your defensive coordinator at this point? And I think that's kind of how I've just viewed it. I think he's just biding time and doesn't want to fire his friend, and he's going to leave, and they're going to go to the Big Ten and become irrelevant again. Because I don't know what USC is at this point. USC's defense is trash. It's embarrassing. And to be honest with you, their offense is good. Caleb's amazing. Their run game is not bad, and they just don't want to lean on it.
No, they ran the ball incredibly effectively early in that game and then went away from it as the game went on.
Marshawn Lloyd had a long run.
Yeah.
I love their running game, and then Lincoln just goes away for 2 quarters, and you're like, why are you not running the football?
Lloyd averaged 12 yards a carry. I know he had the fumble, and that's probably why they stopped giving him the ball, but, like, dude, he averaged 12 yards a carry.
Caleb threw 3 picks against Notre Dame. Did he stop throwing the football? I hate overreacting to a turnover once in a while.
I know. Utah ran the ball for 247 yards on that defense.
I said this yesterday, and I want to get your take. I think there's only one program right now in the conference other than Utah that could use their backup quarterback and be 6-1.
Oh.
Only one other team.
Who do you think it is?
I think it's Oregon State because they did it with Gulbranson last year.
Okay.
If I didn't know Ben Gulbranson or Aiden Childs, I wouldn't pick them. But because they won, 6 in a row or whatever it was with Gulbranson, I've seen them do it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think any other program can do it, which speaks to the coaching job that Whittingham did on Saturday.
Dude, he's the best coach in the conference, and I don't even really know if it's close. And this is part of the stuff with Lincoln Riley that has made me chuckle. Him coming in immediately, like acting like he's going to dominate the conference when there are people like Kyle Whittingham here who has now beaten him every time that he's played him.
0-3 against Whittingham.
0-3,
Whittingham's just bullying him.
USC should not be able to go run and hide in the Big Ten away from Utah. They should be mandated in non-conference every year to play Utah until they beat Utah, and then they no longer have to play Utah again. That should be a requirement of college football. Make me the commissioner and I'll make it happen. That should be a game that takes place every year. This highlights the whole issue, though, with USC and with Lincoln Riley. Like, I see USC fan complaining, just fire Alex Grinch as if that's going to solve things. You have a head coach who doesn't take anything on that side of the ball seriously. He never has. He doesn't recruit at a high level on defense. He doesn't put a lot of resources into defense. Like, he just doesn't care. That's always been his weakness. And until I see him change, I'm not going to believe he's ever going to. Maybe he's belting for the NFL, like you would argue. I think Ohio State is the prime example of a team that realized, at whatever juncture it was, I'm not sure. Maybe Oregon had something to do with this when they dominated them up front when they won in Columbus. Of like, dude, we're getting manhandled by Oregon. We need to change something here, because if that's the reality, we're not going to be able to beat Georgia or any of these other powerhouse programs. Dude, that defense is nasty. It's winning them games now against good opponents, and they realize we have to be better in the front seven. We need to recruit better. We need to find a better defensive coordinator, and they've put all their resources on that side, or not all, but a lot of them on that side of the ball, and it's working for them. Until I see Lincoln Riley do that at the college level, and again, maybe his days are numbered because he's going to the NFL, I'm just not going to believe that they can win at the highest level.
Ohio State should worry about getting a quarterback is what I would say to that, too, because I don't think that team is – I think they're lacking something on that side.
Yeah, that's fair, but I think their defense can make up for it
Their
this year.
defense has been good.
And they get Michigan at home this year.
Yeah. I still have the image of the last time Michigan was at Ohio. Are you sure it's this year?
No, that's right. They're back in Ann Arbor this year, yeah.
Yeah, because last year I thought they'd beat them, and then Michigan came out from the gate. The final thing I'd say on this, too, is I hear what you're saying, but I do think firing a coordinator shows that you care.
Oh, absolutely. I would fire him, yeah. I would have fired him 2 weeks ago.
Jonathan fired Tibesar at this point of the year a couple years ago, and their defense wasn't top of the line in the conference, but their defense statistically changed overnight. It was a different group, and if you do care, you'd make the change. But
I would definitely fire him.
If this isn't fireable, I don't know what is in college football. Poll question: should Lincoln Riley be mandated to play Kyle Whittingham every year in non-conference until he beats him? Yes or no at Dirt and Sprague. Let's talk more college football with Max Chadwick of Pro Football Focus College Football. He'll join us for the Daily Ticker next. The mail sack is at 8:15, so get the mail sack questions in. But Max Chadwick is next, but first, Swag with the sports update.
Now, from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
Brought to you by Laurelhurst Market Steakhouse and Butcher Shop. Their butchers are all trained chefs eager to help with cooking advice. Get to know your friendly neighborhood butcher online at laurelhurstmarket.com. First on the Fan, it was a rare Monday night win for Kirk Cousins, who without Justin Jefferson absolutely torched the 49ers defense. 378 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. Vikings with a 22-17 win over the 49ers. Rookie wide receiver Jordan Addison picking up the slack, 7 catches, 123 yards, catching both touchdown passes. Ducks linebacker Mateo Uiagalelei named the Pac-12 Freshman of the Week for his contribution to Oregon's 38-24 win over Washington State. He had 2 tackles for loss, including his first career sack. The Texas Rangers, in emphatic fashion, closing out the Astros ALCS Game 7, 11-3, the final. They are headed back to the World Series for the first time since 2011. Their opponent will be determined tonight in Philadelphia, NLCS Game 7. The Diamondbacks winning Game 6 on the road 5-1. You'll hear Game 7 this evening on 910 ESPN Portland. Pregame 4:30, first pitch 5:07. And on the eve of the NBA regular season, the Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis Antetokounmpo agreeing to a 3-year, $186 million contract extension, including a player option for the 2027-2028 season. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. Jason Swangard from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk. Spirit Mountain Casino brings you big games on big screens with big-time sports betting action. Learn more at spiritmountain.com.
Go deeper on the Trailblazers. The Rose Garden Report with of sports, some stories can slip through the cracks.
Now, before we do this, let's go over the ground rules.
This is the Daily Ticker, where Dirt and Sprague visit the insiders that are covering the stories you've heard about, and some you haven't.
How'd you do that? Actually, I'm not even mad. It's amazing.
The Daily Ticker with Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
All right, Daily Ticker time here on a Tuesday. Let's talk some more college football. Joining us now is friend of the program, Max Chadwick, college football analyst of Pro Football Focus, at Max Chadwick CFB on Twitter. Max, good morning to you, man. I'm going to start with a kind of an open-ended question. I'm just curious. We were just talking about USC losing. You had Houston almost knock off Texas. You had Washington somehow not score an offensive touchdown against Arizona State. Michigan maybe is cheating in all their games, but we don't really know how to make sense of that. If I were at Penn State losing another big game, what's the biggest storyline for you out of this weekend in college football?
Oh, man, that is a difficult first question. Honestly, I think the Michigan thing has been a little crazy so far, and we're going to see how serious this is. Obviously, the guy, buying tickets to every single game. He apparently bought tickets for both sidelines to the Penn State-Ohio State game, but didn't show up because he obviously the whole story broke and he was named in it. So I got pretty smart not to show face at that game, honestly. But yeah, that was probably the biggest story. But like you said, I mean, it was an insane weekend of college football. USC's playoff hopes are dashed by Utah once again. Texas survived. Oklahoma survived. Ohio State looked great against Penn State. So yeah, it was a crazy weekend of college football. And yeah, it was just insane.
I got a challenge for you, Max. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Tell me the 4 best teams in college football.
I would say Georgia. I would still, and my rankings actually just dropped on PFF.com. I still have Georgia number 1, although they haven't looked as dominant. I think the most dominant team in the country so far has been Michigan. They've won every game by nearly 30 points. We'll see how much this scandal plays a factor the rest of the season, but I still think Michigan. I picked Michigan to win it all before the season, and I still feel really good about that right now. So I got Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State right now is the best resume in college football. They beat Penn State. They beat Notre Dame. Both of those teams are still in the top 15 of the AP poll. So yeah, that's the best resume. So I think Ohio State should be number 3. And then number 4, I would put probably Florida State. I think their resume is probably second in the country behind Ohio State. You got the win over LSU. You got the win over Duke now. You have the win over Clemson as well, who of course has dropped a few games, but LSU and Duke are still top 25 teams right now. So, and LSU is in the top 15. So I think Florida State's resume, that's probably the playoff I would have right now, is Georgia, Michigan, Florida State, and Ohio State are my 4 teams. Right now.
I'm sorry, Max. That's incorrect. No Pac-12 teams. That is an incorrect answer. We're going to have to get out of that one.
I love it, man. There's so many different answers that you could give to that question. Let's get to that one of those Pac-12 storylines you mentioned, USC's playoff hopes being dashed. We were just talking about it before we brought you on. I mean, just to have another bad defensive performance for Lincoln Riley, there's that kind of sense that maybe he's just already eyeing the NFL and the dude's moving on. I've always argued this, that it just like until he does it on the defensive side of the football, I don't take him seriously as a national title contender. I'm just curious your thoughts on USC and what that loss again to Kyle Whittingham and Utah means for them.
Yeah, honestly, and I heard a lot about that too, about Lincoln Riley having one eye on the NFL right now. I just, if I'm an NFL team, it's like, do you really want to hire that guy right now? Like, I mean, he's just proven over the last several years, going back to Oklahoma, the dude doesn't care about defense. He doesn't. He cares about having one of the best offenses in college football, and then the defense, he's like, whatever. You can't do that. You seriously can't do that. And it's the reason why this team has not been in the national championship contending. I mean, you look back, he has had some of the best quarterbacks in college football that we've seen over the last several years. Baker Mayfield won a Heisman Trophy under him. Kyler Murray won a Heisman Trophy under him. Caleb Williams won a Heisman Trophy under them. None of them really had a shot at winning the national championship. Kyler Murray, I think, made the playoff one year. And Baker Mayfield made the playoff one year. They both got smoked in one of them. Baker Mayfield obviously went to that overtime game with Georgia. Caleb Williams never made the college football playoff. I mean, this is a team that just does not care about the defensive side of the ball. And even though they have a top 5 offense in the country year after year after year, they refuse to have a good defense. It's almost like the anti-Iowa, where it's like Iowa just will never have a good offense because Brian Ferentz, the coach's son, is coordinating that offense. But the defense is always elite. Like, if you combine Iowa's defense and USC's offense, I mean, you might have the best team in college football history, honestly. So he's got to care about defense, man. And I think it all starts with letting go of your defensive coordinator, Alex Grinch, and getting a serious defensive coordinator and let him just handle that side of the ball.
Do you think anything's really going to happen to Michigan, though, in season? Because it feels like however bad this cheating scandal is or is not, Max, it feels like they're not going to get hit in season. Like, how often does that even happen? So maybe a final FU to the NCAA from Harbaugh to try to win the title and then just bounce to the NFL and you can hit him with a show cause. Like, I talked about watching the Astros lose made me really happy. I just hate that organization, largely because they went unpunished by baseball. But how would you comp the Michigan scandal, no scandal? How do you view what's happening with the Michigan story? Because Dirt over here thinks it's the same as the Astros. Do you feel that way? And is anything going to happen to them in season?
Yeah, listen, at first when the story broke, a lot of people, including myself, were kind of like, okay, this is something that every college football team does. Like, it seems like this is another one that just comes after Jim Harbaugh for nothing, basically. The whole burger story this offseason was like, dude, come on. But now that more and more details have emerged, it is kind of more serious than I thought. Now, I kind of agree with you. I think it would be very quick for the NCAA. This is not an organization that is known for being very timely and quick with their decisions. So this would be a very fast decision for NCAA to do something this year before the season's over. So I don't think anything will happen this year, but all the details emerging. There's reports that Connor Stalions, the guy who's under scrutiny right now, I mean, there's reports that, there's stadium surveillance of him taking videos of the opposing sidelines. Like, that's a big no-no, obviously. There's someone posted pictures yesterday of him at the Ohio State game, and a lot of Michigan fans are like, "Oh, Connor Stalions is just a low-level staffer." Like, I wonder if Jim even knew about this. He was standing next to Jim Harbaugh, and he's standing next to the offensive and defensive coordinators when the game was going on. So obviously, when Michigan had the ball, he was standing next to the offensive coordinator saying, "Hey, this is what Ohio State's doing," and I'm guessing. And then the defensive coordinator is doing the same thing for them when Ohio State has the ball. So this guy clearly, there's something going on here, and this guy clearly. Who's making $50,000 a year and buying all these tickets is not going to be able to afford that. So there's something going on here. I don't think it'll be this year, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see something this offseason happen to Michigan. And I also wouldn't be surprised if this is the last straw for Jim Harbaugh, win a national title, and then go right back to the NFL because he doesn't want to deal with all the NCAA investigations that you can go under.
Wait, Dirt, so you're telling me Michigan, according to Max Chadwick, Michigan has their version of Brock Purdy who's cheating for him?
They do. He's a cheap guy. He's only 50
grand a year to be the cheater?
That's all it costs, man. Work smarter, not harder, right? Isn't that what they say?
7th round cheater draft pick. I love it.
Let me ask you about one other Big Ten team who is going to play Michigan here soon, and that is Penn State. Like, I see arguments on both sides of this where people say, like, Penn State's had a lot of success. They just won a Rose Bowl last year, for heaven's sakes. The other argument is, like, James Franklin can't beat Ohio State and Michigan. He's been there for 10 years. Like, at what point do you need to get over that hump and show that you're better than them? Just what were your feelings on Penn State now that they lost another one of these big games?
Yeah, so I was lucky enough to actually be in attendance at that game, and I was able to be, it was a lot of fun. I actually, just to look under the hood, I'm actually grew up a diehard Penn State fan. So it was tough. The whole no cheering in the press box rule was very difficult for me during that game. But honestly, listen, my main takeaway, first of all, Penn State's offense is as bad as I thought it was going into it. So I think that wasn't that big of a surprise. Penn State fans wanting James Franklin fired, I just don't understand it, man. Because you mentioned getting over the hump of Ohio State, Michigan. I completely agree with you. That is one heck of a hump to get over, man. I mean, those are two of the best programs in college football with some of the best resources in college football. If you're a Penn State fan, if you're saying that is the expectation, I mean, man, you're chasing the grass is greener almost all the time, and that could really put your program backwards. James Franklin's a heck of a coach, probably a top 10 coach in the country. I don't know if Penn State's a top 10 job in the country, honestly. So I think even James Franklin might be even better of a coach than Penn State is worthy of, honestly. So it's a heck of a hump to get over, and I agree that, you want to start seeing these major victories that just hasn't had yet. But at the same time, I mean, if you're chasing that and if you're saying, hey, that is the expectation, that should be the hope for Penn State. And they're still very well behind Ohio State and Michigan in terms of NIL, in terms of the facilities they have. Until they make up that gap, I don't think they're going to be able to make up the gap on the field. So I'm not really one of those Penn State people or fans that says, hey, James Franklin has to go. I agree it's disheartening that he hasn't been able to do it yet, but at the same time, that is one heck of an ask to ask any coach in college football right now. So I'm not the one that says, hey, this guy should be fired after this year.
A rational college football fan in 2023.
I can't believe you stayed awake for the game. That thing was boring as hell.
That was, man. That was this old Big Ten slobber knocker, man. Max Chadwick, PFF, college football analyst at Max Chadwick, CFB. Go give him a follow, Max. We always appreciate the time, man. Thanks for the insight. Hopefully we can do it again soon.
Of course. Thanks so much, guys.
There you go. Max Chadwick, a Pro Football Focus. Did you talk much about that Penn State game yesterday?
I talked about how boring it was.
Okay.
And, Franklin's thing is true, his record against Big Ten teams in Ohio State, Michigan. I saw a really good point after the show yesterday that it basically was conveying what I was saying. They're stuck in the in-between.
Yes.
The Marylands, the Iowas, not Maryland, because, Maryland's Big Ten now?
Yes, they are.
Thank you. The Marylands, the Iowas, like those teams all suck. Penn State's better than them.
Yes, they are.
The two teams better than Penn State, they can't be better than. So, they're stuck in this alone space in the Big Ten, which is why they don't want Oregon and Washington coming in,
right.
Because they might come in right at that slot and then work their way up.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. I want to get to a little bit of that on the other side. The Michigan story is hilarious, and it just keeps expanding. We do need to get to a future college football story. That's coming up in a bit. Don't forget the mail sack as well. It is a Tuesday. So get your questions in 503-864-6326. That is the Vancouver Ford text line. We're back after this on 1080 The Fan.
Who's stinking it up?
Do not go in there.
It's time for Who's Stinking It Up, a sports lowlight that's ripped from the headlines.
We couldn't do diddly poo.
Brought to you by Three Mountains Plumbing. Schedule your appointment online at threemountainsplumbing.com.
You just got beat. Sometimes, there's no rhyme or reason. Sometimes you lose, and sometimes you get beat. There's a difference.
Yeah, Dusty Baker, pack your bags. Get out of here. Houston Astros losing the ALCS again. They're going to set a record for most LCS losses in Major League Baseball history. I love it. Dirt was a little sad yesterday.
I mean, when you go every year, you're going to lose a lot more than if you don't go every year. So you're not factually wrong on that.
The new Atlanta Braves.
It is kind of tough, though. I think that's probably going to be it for Dusty Baker. He let a lot of people know that he's retiring likely at the end of the season. One of the all-time greats, man, walking away without him winning a Game 7.
At least he got his championship last year. Who's Stinking It Up? Brought to you by Three Mountains Plumbing. Make plumbing and electric services delightful. Get your time back and let the pros tackle whatever projects you need completed. Schedule an appointment online. Three Mountains Plumbing. That's threemountainsplumbing.com.
Hey, everybody, Sprague here. Can't we all agree it's great to have football season back?
local Staples store.
This is Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
We'll get to a story from Ross Dellinger coming up top of the hour.
Do we need to?
I mean, we kind of do.
Ross Dellinger, just put him in the Oregon State Hall of Fame of sad news to report on Oregon State.
Get to the mail sack at 815-503-864-6326. One of the things that I feel like I've done a good job of arguing is being rational as a college program over the years. Like I was one of the few people when Michigan went through their lull, especially in that COVID year, and everybody wanted to fire Jim Harbaugh. You couldn't beat Ohio State. Well, you haven't got to the playoff yet. And I just said, like, let's take a deep breath. Like, he's a good coach. He's proven he's a good coach. Like, I would imagine Jim Harbaugh is going to figure this out. And the last 2 years have gone really well for them. They haven't won a playoff game, but they've gotten there, and they've now beaten Ohio State back-to-back years. I have to go the opposite side of this. Now, again, this will depend on how the rest of the season goes. I have to go the opposite direction on Penn State, man. Like, how many more years do we need to see this until your expectations change? And I think you hit on one of the key issues there. Like, your conference is going to get more challenging in the years to come. Like, there's a lot of people out here that want to joke about how fun going 7-5 in the Big Ten, Oregon. It's like, yeah, Indiana and Illinois, I mean, shaking in my boots.
They're going to shake in their boots when they see what offense is. Like, wait, you can throw the football and run?
The forward pass? What is this, 1997?
The underhit in Minnesota, Iowa.
Of course it did. Like, dude, there's really bad football that gets played in the Big Ten. And some of these teams are going to go in and, like, shake things up a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, things are going to get harder for them. Like, how much more do we need to see until your expectations say, like, dude, at some point you got to beat these teams? He's been there for a decade.
Yeah.
A decade.
I was surprised to hear you say that to Max
His
Chadwick.
first year at Penn State was 2014.
God, I feel like we had been doing a show for 5 years when they hired him. I'm not going to lie to you.
And I'm not, look, somebody's texting in, and you're not necessarily wrong. And maybe this is just a, beauty in the eye of the beholder thing. He's saying, ask Nebraska how this goes. Franklin is Pelini 2.0. And I get that. Pelini won 9 games every year, and then they fired him because it wasn't enough, and he couldn't win the big game, and Nebraska's not been the same sense.
Right.
Maybe I just put Penn State on a higher pedestal, and I shouldn't. Like, there's better recruits in Pennsylvania. There's more of a talent base that you can go to. I know that they have a very dark history. We don't need to get into that again. I just feel like the built-in advantages are much greater at Penn State to win than they are at Nebraska. Convincing kids to go to Lincoln, Nebraska. I've been to Lincoln, Nebraska. Not an easy place to recruit to. So I don't know. Maybe I'm putting them too high on the pedestal, but if I were a Penn State fan, I think my rational sense would be wearing out of like, dude, how much longer do we need? Another 10 years and then you can beat Ohio State and Michigan?
I think the hard thing is like a lot of these games are not competitive. Even though that game was 10-6, did you watch that game and go, yeah, Penn State's going to roar right back and win? Aller threw 42 times.
They didn't run the football, and we owe that, they owe that reporter an apology. The dude who made the analogy about throwing the ball down the field, he was trying to highlight, your passing game sucks.
Oh, yeah.
And do you ever just think about, let's try this and see if we can get guys to make plays on one-on-one? They can't, I mean, Aller's not the dude yet, at least.
Sure. I think it's being competitive. I think it's also the pay. The pay of these coaches gets released once a year. It just got released a week or two ago. I think Franklin's in the top 8 of college football.
He definitely is.
That's where the pressure is. I don't know if that's necessarily fair because that's the market for coaching. Penn State's recruiting pretty well. I push back a little bit on, like, I've been to Lincoln, so I get what you're saying. I've also heard Penn State, like, to get to the stadium, it's not easy.
Okay.
You got to fly somewhere, and you got to drive an hour, and
it's out in the middle of nowhere.
It's kind of like the Denver airport. It's an hour out of Denver. You got to drive to the city. That being said, I think the problem with this is most of our childhood, Penn State, Nebraska, these programs mattered a great deal. And I know they've had some success. They won a Rose Bowl, or they win a Rose Bowl, one of Joe Pa's last years against USC. The problem is the expectation. I just think they need to recalibrate. And
so this is good for Penn State, 9-3, 10-2.
I hate to say that, but yeah. I mean, like, how many years of this do you need to see before you tell yourself, this is kind of what it is? Now, can they get an elite coach to go in there and win? Possibly, but Franklin recruits pretty damn well. You're winning 10-2. You mentioned they won the Rose Bowl last year.
That's because 2 Big Ten teams made the college football playoff.
I know.
They finished in 3rd in the Big Ten.
I know, but we're debating if they were better than Washington last year. I didn't think that they were, but they went and they beat Utah. Now Rising got hurt. That sucked. But they're just stuck. They're in no man's land until Washington, Oregon, and USC and UCLA get there. They're better than Minnesota. They're better than Iowa. They're better than these garbage-ass Indiana teams, but they're not Michigan and Ohio State. And when you're stuck there, you get kind of exposed. You're the only one in a group project right now. All the other group members have dropped out of school or they've got COVID and they're out for 3 weeks. You're solo working on the project. So, yeah, this area is not perfect, but this area is pretty good. But all we're highlighting is the area it's not good when you're all alone. Michigan, Ohio State can lean on each other and say, yeah, how about us? Elite playoff teams. Everybody else at the bottom is like, yo, we're at the bottom fighting for scraps. Yeah. I think Penn State fan mostly, I said this on Friday because I thought they would lose. I think most of them are pretty rational about where the situation is. I don't think they're like up in arms. There's noise, but I think it's from the minority. I think a lot of fans are actually okay with where Penn State is as a program.
It'd be interesting to see, like, if they lose to Michigan the way that I think they're going to lose to Michigan. They do get that game at home. If you lose that game, and that's another, like, 10-2 season where what's your best win? Iowa. Like, what's your marquee win all season?
Oh, I said that
you don't
yesterday.
really have one.
Yeah.
Right? It's just not really there. And then what does that mean in the future when now all of a sudden you have to play Ohio State and Michigan, and there's a road trip to Autzen, and there's a road trip to Seattle, or a road trip to L.A. where you got to go play USC? Have fun with that, man.
If they don't beat Michigan dirt, go look at the schedule. They will not have a win over a ranked opponent. And even after the Michigan game and before it, they don't play a ranked team and definitely don't play a team that's going to be ranked. So I asked Bill Conley, how do we know Penn State's a top 10 team? We keep saying it, but the metrics are skewed, dude.
Yeah.
You can't point to numbers with Penn State. They've beaten UMass and Delaware 120-7.
That's 2 of their 6 wins.
So you can't tell me that the numbers are definitely skewed. They can't throw the football. And I don't know what you do with Penn State. Are they a top 25 team? Maybe the talent would lend itself to say yes, but their schedule, you bitch about the Michigan schedule, and you're right to. Their schedule's just as bad, if not worse, because they won't beat the ranked teams that they face.
Yeah, you got to get some of those marquee wins eventually. It's just another weekend of being Penn State football. Maybe I'm putting them on too high of a pedestal, but I think if I were a Penn State fan, I would be getting there mentally and emotionally of like, dude, enough is enough.
But who do you hire to beat those programs?
Not an easy answer. I don't have the answer to that. That's why the athletic director makes a lot of money. But at some point, but maybe they don't. We'll see how the future goes for them. Maybe they beat Michigan and this becomes a moot point here in a couple of weeks. We got a lot to get to in the final hour. The mail sack coming up at 8:15. Get your questions in to the Vancouver Ford text line, which is how you can interact with us the entire show. 503-864-6326. We'll answer them coming up at 8:15. Let's start, though, some tough news, but an update nonetheless on what the future might look like. We'll start the final hour there next on 1080 The Fan.
At Shane Company,
KWJJ HD2 Portland.
Make that make sense.
I can't.
1080 The Fan. An Odyssey station. Now, from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
First on The Fan, they don't happen often, but Kirk Cousins gets his third Monday night win in 13 games. He did so without Justin Jefferson. The Vikings offense torching the 49ers. 378 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 22-17 the final. Rookie wideout Jordan Addison picked up the slack with 7 catches for $123 and both those touchdown receptions. Texas Rangers are back in the World Series for the first time since 2011, looking for their first ever championship. They pummeled the Astros in Houston 11-3 in the deciding Game 7 of the ALCS. They'll find out who they will play tonight, as it's Game 7 in the NLCS in Philadelphia after the Diamondbacks got to Aaron Nola early in Game 6 for a 5-1 victory. You'll hear it on 910 ESPN Portland. Pre-game 4:30, first pitch 5:07. The NBA season tipping off tonight with a TNT doubleheader. First up 4:30, the defending champion Nuggets hosting the Lakers. Denver a 5.5-point favorite at the Spirit Mountain Casino Sportsbook. The nightcaps in San Francisco, 7 o'clock. The Warriors won't have Draymond Green. Reports out of Phoenix indicate the Suns will not get to see Bradley Beal make his debut. Golden State now a 3.5-point favorite. More sports scores and stories, 30 minutes. Jason Swigart from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk. Spirit Mountain Casino brings you big games on big screens with big-time sports betting action. Learn more at spiritmountain.com.
It's The Fan on FM. Go to 99.5 FM HD2 and enjoy high-def 1080 The Fan.
Hey, I want to dance with somebody.
This is Dirt and Sprague.
This is the moment we've all been waiting for.
Andy Dirt Johnson.
Step up, son. You're 2 pounds heavier than when you came to camp, but we can fix that. All we have to do is decrease his food intake and increase his metabolic output. All right, step up the scale, son. Muscle weighs more than fat.
And Brandon Sprague.
7-minute abs, and we guarantee just as good a workout as the 8-minute, folk. If you're not happy with the first 7 minutes, we're gonna send you the extra minute free. See, that's it. That's our motto.
Dirt and Sprague on 1080.
Maybe at the end of the show, we'll both take our clothes off, you Armani, and me mine, and we'll just give it to the audience. What do you think?
The Fan.
Hey, let's do this. Final hour, Dirt and Sprague here on Portland Sports Leader 1080 The Fan, 99.5 HD2, the Odyssey app. Thanks for being with us on a Tuesday. Got a lot to get to in the final hour of the show. Mail sack coming up. Get your questions in. 503-864-6326. That is the Vancouver Ford text line. We're also live on YouTube. You can go watch us, youtube.com/1080 The Fan. Make sure to subscribe to 1080 The Fan. And you can watch the show there every single morning live. And then it's also up on YouTube all day. So you can watch the show in its entirety on demand anytime you want. You can nanny cam us during commercial breaks. I had a buddy who texted me last week, said, this feels a little weird. And he texted me that during the show, and I was responding to his text during a commercial break, and he said, now I'm watching you text me back. And I thought, this is kind of dangerous, because if I ignore somebody's text message and I read it and then put my phone back down, now you can tell that I ignored your text message.
Do they always respond when they're at work?
Nah, that's a great point.
Oh, do you get to watch them see the phone and not respond to a text right away in the middle of their job? Like, people think
great point.
I know we go to commercial, and sometimes on camera it looks like, oh, they're just farting around. Half the time I'm looking for stuff for the next segment that we're doing, trying to read a little tidbit.
Yeah.
Like, I know you're going to get into this Ross Dellinger story, and we already have a response on Twitter that I'm just like,
oh, somebody we have a preemptive response?
Well, I put up a post because there's been a lot of, I know you don't pay attention to this, but the noise on Beaver Twitter has been
Big 12's going to happen.
The Big 12 is going to throw the lifeline. There's no schedule release for next year. Yormark is looking for expansion in basketball. And so Beaver Fan is holding out the eternal hope of optimism and inclusion into a conference, which I watched a lot. I'm comfortably telling you I watched a lot of Minnesota, Iowa, and I walked away going, I'm glad they're in a power conference and my team's going to be in the Mountain West next year.
Makes sense, right?
But Ross Dellinger lays this out, and Ross Dellinger's, I would say, as informed as any other person in sports media and college football. And I just don't think there's a real optimistic view of the
Okay.
Big 12 throwing the lifeline out. And we already have a Beaver fan saying, like, not so fast, my friend.
Well, here's the thing. I think it's okay to remain hopeful. I think hope is a good thing in life from time to time. Hell,
Maybe the best of things.
For most of our sports fandoms, that's all we got, man. Not many of us get to experience championships in different sports, and so hope is the only thing that keeps us afloat. And I think that can be said here. And so both these things can be true. Here's what's being reported this morning by Ross Dellinger. He is saying, barring something unforeseen, the two schools, as in Oregon State and Washington State, are expected to operate as a two-member conference for at least the next year, if not the next 2 years. And they are in deep discussions with the Mountain West officials over a 1 or 2 year scheduling alliance. So basically the way to view this is how Notre Dame makes their schedule. So Notre Dame is not a member of the ACC in football. They have one toe in the water, one toe out the water, right? Or 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And all the other major sports they are. But they schedule USC and Stanford, and you have those certain games throughout the course of the year that you play, but they play a small number of ACC games as a part of their alliance with the ACC, but they're not a competitor in football in that conference. This, to me, seems like something that Oregon State and Washington State have to figure out. If there's not an invite that's on the table right now from the Big 12, like, you don't have a schedule for next year.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you need to have a schedule for next year.
Yeah.
Whether you're just joining the Mountain West, whether it's an independent thing. The tough part with going independent is how are you going to come up with 12 games that you're going to play at this point, right? Teams already have their non-conference schedules booked. Teams already have their conference schedules booked. Like, you can't go make this schedule like that. Like, hey, here's 12 games. Let's go play it. Or 11 because Oregon State and Washington State would play each other. So basically it's saying for the next year or two, they're coming up with an alliance to schedule with the Mountain West. And there's a bunch of different models that are on the books. That one version would have them play 8 Mountain West opponents next year. Another one would have them play 7 Mountain West opponents. One has them the games counting towards a conference record in the Mountain West. One has them straight up as non-conference matchups. So they're discussing all of this stuff. This is mainly just for now a scheduling alliance that is necessary. Now, the fear that I think you and others have is this is the step in the direction of you're eventually going to merge and this is what it's going to become. But Oregon State and Washington State, it seems at least still in this article, maintain that they are going to remain a 2-team conference for the next 2 years, which how that works in the playoffs is going to be fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
But they need to come up with a schedule, and this is the only route that they kind of have right now.
Yeah, and he ends this with saying, in 2026, the clock is up. And
You got 2 years to figure this out. So they can't right now vote to change the playoff format because the Pac-12 still has a vote. So the playoff format's not going to change. How they treat Washington State, and Oregon State, it's a different question of are they treated as an independent because it's only a 2-team conference?
Yeah, so they'd get an at-large bid is kind of
Right.
what they're floating around.
But that's also the counteracting argument of if you count these Mountain West games towards conference records, then you can win the Mountain West and be counted as a conference champion and then have that path to the playoff as well.
I get why this is being reported, and it's Ross's job to do. It's just depressing. I mean, there's no other way to say this. I'm currently shopping for UW tickets. My cousin's a UW grad. It's our last time Oregon State, Washington probably play.
Your last home Pac-12 game?
It's the last home Pac-12 game. I just want to kind of be there and check in for a game. And those tickets are roughly, if you want a good seat, you're paying $170 to $220-ish pre-tax. You ain't charging me for that to watch San Jose State. And if you are, you can piss off. Like, I hate to say that. It's my alma mater, but like that's the other part of this. They're going to lose money. And yeah, there's blurbs in here, but they get $40 million from the Rose Bowl, and they're fighting for the $100 million revenue tied to its existence. Yeah. It makes it clear this court situation could go a full calendar year.
Which is why they need to do something in the meantime.
Which is why, they need to make this schedule. But it's just, I think from a fan standpoint, it's very depressing. Yeah. These two teams, specifically the one in Corvallis for now, I could give you a grip, dozens and dozens of teams that they are better than. And I have to pay to watch them play San Diego State next year. I have just no interest in that whatsoever. And I'll be curious to see their ticket model because I don't know how you sell to any fan, no matter what your circumstances. Hey, pay the same price that you paid for UW, Oregon, USC, whoever.
Yeah, UCLA, Utah coming to town.
Right,
Yeah.
And pay those same prices to watch San Jose State, San Diego State, Air Force. Like, I have no interest in that at all.
Yeah, I continue to maintain it's really the hardest part of the entire college football season for me. Like Oregon State, what are they in the AP poll? 11th right now?
11, yeah.
11. If they win this weekend, like Oregon and Utah are going to play, that'll be a second loss for one of those teams. I think they're still ahead of Utah, but
yeah, they're ahead of the Utes.
It's just like there's no metric, there's no rationale, there's nothing that says this is not a Power 5 program, and it's just I don't know. I don't root for your program. We're rivals, and I can't stand hearing from Beaver fans about last year's Civil War. There's no rationale that backs up this not being a Power 5 program, and it's really frustrating this year that I've argued this many times. Like there's this like cloud hanging over everything, and I will continue to maintain like if Washington State and Oregon State had an invite to the Big 12, it would still be a sad aspect of like, man, we're not going to see those games anymore. Like that's kind of a bummer. Or what will it look like? Maybe they play every once in a while, but it won't be every year. But I wouldn't have that same feeling. Like I had this coming out of last weekend's game. That's probably the last time Oregon and Washington State ever play again. Like Oregon's not going to schedule Washington State in a non-conference game. They're not going to We're never going back to Pullman. Like that's never going to happen. I've seen Oregon and Washington State play every year my entire life.
Yeah.
And it was one of those like I knew this was going to happen as the season went on. Like wait till Civil War week. But it really did hit me in the aftermath of that game. I almost left that game happier for the Cougs that they kind of figured it out and Cam Ward had a good game. Like I found myself like, dude, good for you. Like the last 2 weeks is not who Washington State is. They're a better team than that. They showed it, and they're going to get a bounce back win this weekend against Arizona State. Like it just was a really weird feeling after that game of like, that's the last time they're ever going to play again.
For now, I think, 2026 sounds so far to me, and I think a lot of other people, because, yeah, that's almost 3 years. But, we've seen conferences realign and change, and I'm not suggesting Oregon State, Washington State are bound for the Big Ten or the Pac-12 is going to come back into an alliance because they figure out down the road this was really stupid. Let's just morph this back into what it was. I won't be shocked though if that's what happens in some capacity. I don't know if that means Oregon State, Washington State are in the same thing as Oregon and Washington, who have this weird hatred partnership that they've got going on. But I also won't rule everything out. I'm talking about in the immediate now and next year and even in 2025. This sucks.
Yeah.
It really sucks. And I will be expecting college football to somehow railroad us again in some way, maybe including the playoff. But this is their only choice. They don't have another option here. They got to make a schedule, and you don't have any other Power 5 opponents or Power 4 now at this point.
Yeah.
Opponents that are available, so you go with the closest thing to it. It still sucks, though.
Yeah, it doesn't mean it doesn't suck. I think the positive spin on this would be it's a short-term scheduling alliance because you have no other options, and you're treading water until something gets resolved or figured out. The negative stance on this is your future. This eventually becomes what the conference is. You merge with the Mountain West, and that's what the future holds.
You should go undefeated next year.
I mean, look,
if you don't have a mass exodus out of your program and your coaching staff stays, Oregon State should look at that schedule. You circle Washington State.
You got Purdue at home. You play a Big Ten team in non-conference.
Purdue's not all that impressive to me.
Purdue sucks.
My point is, you look at the schedule and you'll circle Washington State as we'll have to see, but that's at home. I don't look at anybody in the Mountain West, and I they're not leaving me quivering in my boots right now.
Aiden Childs should beat all those teams, man. So, yeah, this was the update today from Ross Dellinger. You can find it. He's got it up on Yahoo about the scheduling alliance that might be taking place in the next 2 years between Oregon State, Washington State, and the rest of the Mountain West because they got to get their schedules out for 2024. Let's get to the mail sack. Your questions welcome. 503-864-6326. We'll answer them next on The Fan.
The Herd with Cullen. boom, boom, boom. This is Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan. All your feet.
All right, we got a lot of mail sack questions coming in. Let's do it. Somebody asking if I'm wearing eyeliner. No, I just am incredibly sick.
No, that's his guy liner.
That's my guy liner.
That's his guy liner by Derek Carr.
I'm getting my Derek Carr on today.
That guy wore eyeliner one time in a game, and we just always assume he has eyeliner on.
We did, man. He kind of looks like it, though.
Why did he wear eyeliner, though? Did anybody ever find that out? That was a really weird emo phase he went through.
It was, sometimes we're in our fields. Does it look like I'm wearing eyeliner today? Do I appear to be wearing eyeliner?
Derek Carr looks like an Antifa member mad at dad. I don't need his credit card. I'm going to break a window.
I'm going to go listen to Nirvana. Mail sack question. Had this conversation with my wife after seeing all three of these recently. Who is the worst? Number one, dog owner who lets their dog poop in a public space and never picks it up.
How about dog owner who doesn't put his dog on a leash and the dog runs away every time? Oh,
yeah. Number two, grocery shopper that doesn't return the cart to the cart corral.
I take it all the way to the building now. I do the job for the cart
You
keepers.
do it all the way to the building. That's a lot.
It's cold and wet a lot, man. Like, that job ain't paying enough to be doing that job.
No,
Go corral the carts. It's 40, wet, and windy. Okay.
Do you do it on a nice 75-degree day, too, or do you leave it in the corral? Is that just a weather-determined thing?
I would say
that's probably a nice break if you're inside the store all day of like, hey, it's sunny outside. I got to go walk around, kill some time. Nobody's watching you in the parking lot.
I'm a hit rate right now about 86% of the time I'm taking the cart back to the building.
It's a bold move. And number three, the customer that never, under any circumstances, leaves a tip for the servers or wait staff. Who's the worst person?
I mean, God, I don't know how you sort these bozos
It's got to be
out.
one or three. Like, the cart thing is egregious, but that's not pooping in a public space and not picking it up and never tipping. I think I go number one.
I want to go three because my mom was a waitress.
I think I'd go number three.
It's pretty egregious to not tip for good service. I'm learning things about people with tipping now that tipping's become more mandatory and higher with inflation.
Yeah.
It's really funny to listen to the logic and explanations of why they could only tip 12% and couldn't go up to the old bold 20, or how some people are shaming me now. A customary, traditional standard, bare minimum, I am always 20% tipping, even in bad service. I know, controversial.
Yeah, I won't do that.
I'm now being shamed that I'm not tipping high enough.
That pisses me off.
That number is getting to 25 and 30 on some of these iPads that I'm being
Why
handed
am
back.
I the one that has to carry the load for you not wanting to pay your employees?
Well, some of them are paying their employees, but food prices are pretty stupid right now.
That's fine, but stop it. Stop it.
Handling restaurants on margins, I can't pretend to understand that stress and anxiety. I can't handle doing a radio show. You can imagine how I'd be as a restaurant owner. That being said, I'm easily voting one here. My children play in parks. Other people's kids, walk around, crawl around on grass. There is nothing that irks me more and makes me want to take a human being by the back of their head and put their faces in animal crap more than people that are too lazy to pick up their dog feces.
Yeah.
What are we doing here?
It just takes 2 seconds. You got a bag. You know what I found the other day? I have like a little side yard thing. This was like a week or two ago. I was mowing after I got back from Sun River, and I was mowing the little side yard that I don't ever really go in. It's just off the front of the house. It's like there's nothing over there. It's just a gate. Somebody let their dog walk like 15 feet into my side yard and laid a dump. And just left
and
it.
didn't pick it up.
And I was just out mowing. Like, I don't ever have poop bags with me when I'm mowing the front yard because there's not poop in my front yard.
You need some security cams there.
I was like, how the hell? Like, first off, your dog's off the leash or you're walking onto my front lawn, which would piss me off even more. And, like, just, like, the level of disrespect that shows to a neighbor is beyond me.
It doesn't make sense. I've had some little dogs drop some little turds in my yard, and I just look at it, and I'm like, really?
Yeah.
I occasionally will get caught where my dog will go a couple times on a walk, and I won't have a bag.
Sure, you only have one bag, but he poops twice, something like that.
You know what I do?
Yeah, you go back and get a bag.
I go back and get a bag.
Yeah.
And do I like doing it? I absolutely don't.
Yeah, I think I go poop number one there, tipping number two. Cart returns. I mean, come on, return your carts, people. Don't be lazy. It's 20 more steps. It's good exercise.
I saw a guy, a funny thing that mentioned this question. I'm walking into Freddy's, and I'm walking, and I see an older gentleman, and he just throws his cart into the light post. There's a cart thing maybe 5 spots down. He could have walked an extra minute and a half, returned the cart, got to his car. I was going to say something, and then he turned around. He had an Air Force veterans hat on. And I'm like, thank you for your service, but stop being a trash human being. I wanted to say it, but I didn't.
Yeah,
I don't want to be on World Star.
Yeah.
Guy picks on old vet.
Oh, yeah?
And then we find out the guy's on food stamps. He's struggling. The VA's awful. Government doesn't take care of their soldiers, which is absolutely true.
You're such a jackass.
And now I'm the
Sprague.
guy chastising the veteran for not taking a shopping cart back as he's hungry and just wants to go home.
Mailsack question, since Beaver fans in general are communicating to Oregon State that they want to wipe their hands with Oregon in every possible way this year, after this year, which school does that create more issues for, and would you rather take a Big 10 or Big 12 invite as a Beaver if you had the choice right now?
It's easily Oregon State. They benefit the most financially from it, and I would take the Big 10, and I wouldn't think twice. I want to watch Oregon State go into Iowa, wave to all those kids, and pummel the living hell out of that joke of a program. Does that answer the question?
Dude, how do Iowa fans, how do you go about your day-to-day life?
I think it's
he's keeping his kid on staff who's how is that possible? Who allows that? Brian Ferentz is terrible. He's an idiot. The offense can't score. Like, everybody freaked out about the punt return call, which was unquestionably the right call. He waved his arm like this. It was an illegal call.
He
for
was
a
trying to
fair
have
catch.
to wave it above your head.
No,
But if you can't wave your arm like this to stay away, that was clearly intent to stay away from the football, stay away from the football.
Yeah.
And then he fields it. Like, you can't do that. Also, you can't blame other people when you have 2 yards of offense in a half of football. 2 yards of offense.
No, that's bad.
Why don't we point the finger at the offensive coordinator or the head coach before we criticize the officials? They can't score an offensive touchdown. That's an embarrassment. It's a national embarrassment, and he's allowed to do it every year. There is no team that will suffer more from the loss of divisions than Iowa. Iowa has been able to hang their hat on the fact that they get to a Big Ten championship every now and then, only to get waxed every time that they play it because they have divisions in the Big Ten when they're like the 5th best team in the Big Ten. It's an absolute joke. They are going to get bumped down even further because they're worse than Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, unquestionably. I think you give Nebraska another year or two, they're going to be better than Iowa because they can function offensively. Eventually, they will.
Calm down on that.
Oregon and Washington are already obviously better than Iowa. USC's better than Iowa. UCLA's better than Iowa.
Yeah.
Like, have fun, dude. You're the 8th best team in that conference, but they keep hiring. Don't even get me started on that.
I'm just convinced
End
that
of rant.
Iowa sports fans, they're into some real kinky things that they don't talk about outside of church. Because I don't know how else you go through that every year.
The Oregon State needs the Civil War more than Oregon does. I'm not saying football, Millsack, I'm not saying football is dominating the sports world, but I can't be the only person who didn't even realize that the basketball season started today.
I put a poll question up at Dirt and Sprague. NBA season starts tonight. Yes or no? Yes, hallelujah. No, it's not Christmas. Those are your answers.
I mean, let me ask you this. Tonight, I give you one screen to watch. Truth serum time. We're in the trust tree here.
Yeah, sure.
I give you one screen, no dual screen.
Yeah.
What are you watching? Game 7 or opening night of the NBA? Be honest. It's okay.
I'm watching the NBA.
You're watching the NBA?
F baseball. 162 just to play a 5-game series.
I mean, we
Let's do
finally
it.
got Game 7s.
2 Game 7s.
To back-to-back
Who
Game
saw that
7s?
coming when these series
Hey,
got
you know what,
started?
baseball? You deserve Diamondbacks Rangers. You deserve every second of it. I hope it's the lowest rated World Series in the history of humanity. And I hope it goes 4 games. Who wins? I don't give a crap. I hope the Texas Rangers sweep the Diamondbacks in the World Series because that's what baseball deserves. All of these really good teams eliminated early, didn't even get to the World Series. You deserve it all. I hope the Michael Scott of sports commissioners is sitting there going, Texas Rangers, congratulations.
You know what? Your team should cheat a little bit more. Maybe they'd get to the NLCS.
Well, we tried to cheat. We sucked for 4 years to get all the talent, and then it didn't. It paid off, but it didn't pay off this year.
Mailsack question. Now that you guys are on YouTube, who's going to be the first to get caught scratching their balls or letting out a silent fart? I don't think you can see our crotches on the camera.
Well, you could probably see if I'm adjusting junk, but what I would say is there's probably been a few moments where it looks like, and I know, here goes the guy saying, man, somebody didn't wipe or didn't do this. And it was probably the guy. I get how this is going to sound. It's going to look like I'm picking my nose sometimes, but sometimes my nose just generally gets itchy. So I'm more worried about people thinking I'm picking my nose during the break for a quick second than I am anything else.
Mail sack question. For 6 months, would you rather be a lawyer for Trump or a personal trainer for Skip Bayless?
Or a personal what for Skip?
Personal trainer for Skip Bayless.
Look, I don't want to be Jenna Ellis getting farted on by Rudy Giuliani in a courtroom who today pleads guilty to lying to legislators and now is going to turn on Trump and make it very obvious what most of us have known for a long time.
Dude, his farts definitely reek.
Absolutely.
He drinks way too much wine.
I'd much rather be a personal trainer for Skip Bayless because I could always have fun putting that man through hell for his awful sports takes.
You could punish him. It's like, no, we're not done yet. We're not done yet.
Do you want to be the picture in the history book and they're like, hey, and this person got pink eye from a Rudy Giuliani fart defending an election denier after clearly he lost an election by 7
Plus,
million
the reason
votes.
you're only a lawyer for 6 months is you're about to get disbarred for whatever the hell he had you do.
Dude, they're flipping these cats every day.
Oh, yeah.
Did you hear? Okay, so I know you didn't follow this, and I won't get too political. I saw a clip yesterday. Trump did a big old rally, and I still can't believe these are called rallies and not stand-up sessions at this point with what he says. But he said he'd be willing to be the Nelson Mandela of America. Like, he knows he's going to prison, so he's just trying to tee this up in ways that makes it sound like he's some everyman in prison for conning the legal systems.
Some
and
of us
got to
be Nelson Mandela's out here, okay? Somebody's got to take it. All right, somebody's got to do it.
Look at Swag. He's changing the cam. He doesn't want to be a camera anymore.
Staying home sick. Oh, this isn't even a question, but I just want to read it. Staying home sick with my kids today. You guys are the new age Price is Right. I want to start staying home so I can watch the show. That means a lot, dude.
Actually does mean a lot.
Us being the new Price is Right. That's awesome.
Did you see they found Aaron Paul did Price is Right well before he landed the Breaking Bad gig?
No.
And he was he had glasses. He looked kind of the same, but he had glasses. And he was like Mr. Price is Right enthusiast. He was on it, and they're like, Aaron Paul, ding, 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 ding. You know, when they pick the contest, he comes out, he's like, woo, Price is Right. Price is Right. And he goes up and plays all the games, and he wins the car, and he falls to the ground. He's hugging Bob Barker. This was before he became an actor.
How about that?
I think these people use it for acting.
Yeah, it's a good way to get on camera, kind of get comfortable a little bit, reacting to certain prizes.
Yeah.
We got a couple of lingering mail sack questions I would like to ask on the other side. Also, a couple of notes on Game 7, which we get tonight, and the NBA season is upon us. Are you ready? All of that still to come in the next half hour. First, your Swag with Sports Center.
Now, from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk, a Sports Center update on 1080 The Fan.
If you've been arrested for DUI, you need a team of attorneys you can put your trust in. Call Reynolds Defense Firm today online at reynoldsdefensefirm.com. First on The Fan. Kirk Cousins, just his third win on Monday night in 13 attempts. It was a big one as he torched the 49ers secondary for 378 passing yards and 2 scores without Justin Jefferson. 22-17, the Vikings get the win. Rookie wideout Jordan Addison picked up the slack with 7 catches for 123 yards in both those scores. Ducks linebacker Mateo Uiagalelei named the Pac-12 Freshman of the Week for his contribution to Oregon's 38-24 win over Washington State. 2 tackles for loss, including his first career sack. Game 7 in the NLCS in Philadelphia. The Diamondbacks got a big win in Game 6, 5-1. And they will try to pull off the upset tonight to advance to the World Series. The winner will meet the Texas Rangers, who blew out the Astros in Game 7 of the ALCS 11-3. Coverage begins at 4:30 on 910 ESPN Portland this afternoon. First pitch at 5:07. The NBA season tipping off tonight with a doubleheader. 4:30. The defending champion Nuggets will put a banner to the ceiling, then host the Lakers. They are 5.5-point favorites at the Spirit Mountain Casino Sportsbook. The Nightcaps in San Francisco, 7 o'clock. Warriors hosting the Suns. Golden State now 3.5-point favorites. More sports scores and stories in 30 minutes. Jason Swigard from the Spirit Mountain Casino Sports Desk. Spirit Mountain Casino bringing you big games on big screens with big-time sports betting action. Learn more at spiritmountain.com.
Your favorite fan shows are on YouTube.
That sweet southern rain.
This is Dirt and Sprague on 1080 The Fan.
Long black train.
All right, welcome back in. 8:38. Somebody asking the question, doing a little extended mail sack here. Asking if, we were talking about the news from Ross Dellinger earlier today that the scheduling alliance might be near between Oregon State, Washington State, and the Mountain West, just so they can get a schedule on the books. What it means long-term is anybody's guess, right? Some people are more optimistic, some people aren't. Somebody asking, is that going to change how you guys cover the Beavers on your show?
We've talked about this off the air, actually.
Yeah, I mean, I'll lead the floor to you because you're the Beaver guy on the show. You're only contractually allowed to talk about Oregon State, actually. It's in the fine print of your contract. Every time you talk about Oregon, they fine you $10. You know that?
I've been accused of being a duck honk, an anti-duck guy.
You are such a duck honk,
Pro-Beaver, anti-Beaver. I've been accused of it all.
Such a honk. Quit honking it up.
I don't know. I think we kind of have to wait it out. I'm curious to see if the playoff format changes in any way.
That's the huge key here.
I don't know,
who's in line for a college football playoff spot right now?
For the 4-team?
For if the 12-team playoff started this year.
Well, they are. They're in it.
Sure, but I'm saying, who else, though? If the playoff started this year, who would currently be going to the college football playoff?
Oh, our Mountain West foe, Air Force.
Air Force.
Air Force. We'd have 2 Mountain West teams in that bitch.
If the college football playoff was a 12-team format right now, Air Force would be your next highest-ranked conference champion. Now that they have to finish the year and they'd have to win their conference. But as of now, they would be getting a playoff spot.
They're having a great year. I don't know if I'm going to consider that they're going to do that next year.
No, I'm just saying this is the point of to me is the only silver lining in a horrible turd sandwich that you're being asked to eat is that if you can keep the format something like this, having a path year in and year out to make a lot of money in the TV deal that's going to get dispensed to the teams that make the college football playoff and having a chance to host some of these big-time games and win some of these big-time games would be massive for the program.
If they have an opportunity, we cover them the same. I think the difference is we don't do as much game breakdown because, again, if there's no mass exodus...
Yeah, you're going to have a lot of games you should win.
They should have, there's going to be a lot of San Jose State games, and that's just kind of what it is. And so
the Fresno State game will be big. The Boise State game will be big.
Sure.
Washington State week obviously will be one that you talk about.
Maybe an Air Force or whoever, but I think for the most part we'd have weeks where we come in and, hey, Aiden Childs looks really good. He looks comfortable. Not much of a game breakdown because they won 45-17.
Sure, similar to when Oregon plays Stanford. You're like, all right, what are you going to talk about?
Yeah, I mean, I think you already kind of have these games in power conferences. It won't be that different. My fear is that they don't get included in the future playoff. I get concerned about that.
Yeah, they find a way to restructure it, sure.
And in that way, I would see some things happening at the program that I wouldn't like, and then it would lend itself to be kind of in the back burner of topic conversation, unfortunately.
Yeah, so we'll see. I mean, time will tell. In the short term, the answer to that is no. Oregon State's a top 15 program in the country, and every metric points to that. Coaching staff, the talent that they have, the way that they develop some of their players. And so, as long as they're continuing to play at that level, we're not going to talk about them any less. And especially if there's a pathway to the college football playoff. Now, we'll see how the future shakes out, what the future conference stuff looks like, and there's a lot of time to figure that all out. But in the short term, my answer to that is no, we will not. Game 7 tonight in Philadelphia. Chris Mad Dog Russo has a lot on the line. He said on his radio show yesterday, this was prior to Game 6. He said, now, I've been wrong on Arizona a lot, in my Mad Dog Russo voice. He doubled down and said if Arizona wins Game 6 and Game 7 in Philadelphia, he will retire on the spot, which he most certainly will not do.
Mm-hmm.
But he said that on his radio show. Are we giving Arizona a chance tonight in Philly in a Game 7?
Do you know what I said yesterday on our radio show?
What'd you say?
Oh, so you know Mad Dog's radio show. You didn't know what our show said.
Well, he tweets out clips of his show, and we didn't tweet out any clips of our show
I thought Swag sent out 3 clips yesterday.
No, I didn't see the clip.
That happened.
You're getting Brandon Fott, the Hillsboro Hop.
Former Hillsboro Hop.
Legend.
Fott.
You said that a little
I love saying his last name.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, it's fun.
Sound a little scared the way you said it.
You know how it's spelled? It's a really fun spelling of a last name.
F-A-U-T?
P-F-AA-A-D-T.
D-T.
D-T.
Ooh. I'm not going to try to say it.
He's going against Ranger Suarez, who's been really good in the playoffs.
Yes, he has. And they got to Nola yesterday. I was on the show yesterday. Like, oh, you can't get to Nola.
Back-to-back home runs in the first inning.
You can't beat Nola. He's unbeatable. He's at home.
A couple of solo bombs. Longoria added a double.
Pham bomb to start things going.
Yeah. Go ahead. You can tell me. I'm not watching baseball. I told you. I'm being legitimately honest when
You're
I tell you.
not going to watch any of this, huh?
My team lost. I don't. When you go through that long of a season and you know the team is good and then they lose like that, it's not. This is not reflective of the season and who these teams are. That's what sucks about baseball. It's not a true measurement of the best teams. It just isn't. So, yeah, I'm not watching. You guys tell me what's happening.
Well, you can tell me what happens with the NBA because that's not getting on one of my 2 screens.
Oh, are you cool?
Yeah, it won't either for me. It's game 1 of 82.
How do you not want to see the Lakers exact their revenge on the Nuggets tonight?
Nobody cares.
No.
Nobody cares.
Is it the
Now,
first game?
tomorrow I will probably watch the Milwaukee
get
Bucks.
out of here. Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about the Blazers.
No.
The Blazers do play tomorrow night. Their first game's tomorrow.
Tomorrow night at the Clips.
7:30.
I'm not emotionally ready for that. I'm not there yet.
All the LA games are usually 7:30 for traffic down there. It's in LA.
Well, nobody goes to Clipper games anyways, so
Except
might as well
Crawford.
just start it at 5 o'clock.
Crawford's not even good. Crawford actually hates this team now.
Yeah, he should because they just disappoint and fail every year.
Well, they sold every possible asset for a decade to win like one playoff series. It was not really worth it. I don't know. What do you guys think's going to happen?
I mean, I'm going to take the home team. I know.
Are
that's,
you?
Yeah.
Ballsy take.
But very ballsy
Good take.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
what's your take, Swag? Home team? Okay, great. What's coming up next?
No,
Wow.
I kind of like the
What died
Diamondbacks
on
tonight.
you this morning, huh?
The season. What do you mean,
The
me? I
Phillies-
celebrated the right thing
The
yesterday,
Phillies have
and you
never
poo-pooed
been in
it.
a Game 7.
Never
What
played
does
in a
that
game 7.
matter?
I don't know.
What does that
like
matter?
The Diamondbacks tonight.
What does it matter? And the Diamondbacks were in a Game 7 and 0-1.
Yes.
Does that mean this team's going to win that?
No,
Well, then what does that matter?
I don't know. It's just fun to
Why
say.
are you so angry right now?
He's cranky.
I hate baseball.
Why?
I'm a real hatred for baseball right now.
Oh.
Okay.
My team, I can't begin to tell you, man. It's
In
dumb.
the NBA, your fandom has no hope.
Did I sit here rant and rave about the Blazers? I don't remember
No, but
saying
you like
anything.
watching the playoffs, but your team has no hope. But you like watching the NBA playoffs?
If my team won 58 games or 60 games
You
in
wouldn't
a
watch the
season,
NBA finals?
I would watch.
Why? Because it was the regular season, but if you lost in the playoffs, you won 58 games, but you lost in the second round.
The team with the best record last year, who won the title?
I mean, that happens every year in the NBA because we know who's going to win the title every
Because the season's long enough of a sample size to tell us who's truly good, great, and mediocre. Once in a while, yeah, you get a Miami over Milwaukee. Let's not count the injury, I guess, in that conversation. But whether you like the NBA or not, it's really largely a true measurement of the season, showing what you know and it playing out that way.
You're very angry today.
162 games.
Very angry.
The most runs in history, the most home runs. Like, we did it all, except winning the playoffs.
Yeah, look, I've poo-pooed the MLB playoffs all along. It's just because they haven't been interesting. Now they're finally interesting. We got a Game 7 yesterday. That game sucked, but I watched the first 4 innings of it until Texas finally blew it open. I can't wait tonight, man. Philly has all the pressure in the world on them. Arizona's a team that nobody gave a chance that was 6 games above 500. This is what I love about baseball. The Arizona Diamondbacks in any other sport have no chance of winning anything that matters. In baseball, they're 1 win away from going to a World Series. I love that about this sport. I love the randomness of it, and so I can't wait to watch. I do think the Phillies will win tonight, but I can't wait to see if they go in and shut that city up because Philly will freak out. If they fall down 2-0, 3-0 early, the panic that will happen in that ballpark will be worth every second of watching that game.
You'll hear the silence.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? You hear the, oh, no. Will you guys be excited? I don't want to do the national rating thing. It's going to be awful. Are you excited, you two? Diamondbacks, Rangers? Does that get you excited?
I'm excited because Bochy's in it, and I want to see Bochy win another World Series. I think he's the greatest manager of all time, and the numbers continue to back that up.
It's got me more
Robbie
excited
Cox on
than
line 1.
Phillies Rangers.
Win more than 1 World Series? He's got 3. He's now been to a World Series with 3 different teams. He's 5-0 all-time in LCSs. He's never lost a league championship series.
Is that a manager thing or luck thing?
Yeah, just incredibly lucky with 3 different teams over the course of 4 different decades.
Okay. I love Bruce Bochy. I picked the over for the Rangers this year. Why are you yelling at me right now?
Because you yelled at me. You don't want to watch a Game 7 in the baseball playoffs tonight. You'd rather watch Game 1 of a meaningless NBA regular season.
The NBA didn't rip my heart out and step on it and look at me and went, oh, yeah.
How the Blazers doing right now?
They're tanking.
Oh, yeah, great. Yeah, the last couple of years have been a lot of fun, and the franchise player is now gone. Blazers are doing great. They haven't ripped your heart out. I'm glad you're doing great as a Blazer fan. Let's wrap it up next on The Fan.
Oregon Ducks football is on. The Fan.
Do what you want to do. All right, we'll get to a couple of poll questions here in a moment. Text from a Braves fan saying, the funny thing is, Sprague and I are pissed right now, but 2 years ago we were celebrating the hell out of our basically 500 team winning the World Series.
Yeah, hey, we had 88 wins, okay? Let's be careful here.
You had 88. The Diamondbacks have 84. The Phillies have 90.
Yeah.
So
we were 14 games better than the Phillies, and they bounced us. We won the regular season series against the Phillies this year, and they bounced us.
The Dodgers, the year that you beat them in the NLCS, won 20-plus games more than you did.
Look, I'm definitely sour grapes, bitter baby guy here right now. I'm fully admitting what I am, but it's hard to get through that season.
See, this is where I will always
through it.
I totally get your point. It sucks when you have a great dude. My team won. Imagine your team winning 107 games. That's the most games the Giants have ever won in the history of their franchise.
Yeah.
You know what their reward was?
You got to play the Dodgers,
who won 106 games in the wild card round of the playoffs.
And if
whatever the first round, it's all a blur now. They won their one game playoff and then they played the Dodgers.
Round is what it was.
Whatever. Yeah. So that was their reward. You had to play a team that the Braves won less than 90 games. And they got to play like the Milwaukee Brewers, who won like 88 games in the first round of the playoffs. And we had to play the 106-win Dodgers, in which we lost in a heartbreaking fashion in Game 5. I watched every second of the rest of that playoffs.
You did. And you watched my team celebrate.
Yes, you won a World Series that year.
You're better than me.
I think baseball playoffs
should they reseed when you get past the wild card.
I mean, sure, I have no problem with that.
Because the one thing you can say that I can't say, it's devastating to lose to a rival, let alone the rival that you probably shouldn't have been playing at that round. You should have been playing a team like ours that year. But like, at least you lost to a team who had one less win than you.
It doesn't make it any better. We shouldn't have played them in the first round of the playoffs.
No, and
they were the two best teams in baseball all year.
I agree with you.
That should have been the World Series.
I agree. I kind of agree with you there. But like, that's kind of my point. You went through a whole year and you guys were separated by one game.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you lost to a team who won one less game. 14 games. That's massive. That's almost 3 series of best of 5. Like, come on.
Like how you guys beat the Dodgers that year in the NLCS.
Dodgers were fraudulent. I mean, come on, I knew that.
I don't quite get the whole, like, not watching if the playoffs were boring, I wasn't watching some of it. Like, if you're getting sweeps and blowouts, it's like, dude, I don't care. I'm not watching that. Game 7s, man, you can't ask for anything more than that. Baseball struggles to find a sense of urgency in their playoffs. That was the whole beauty of the one-game playoff. Game 7 tonight in Philly, man, the pucker factor that exists in Philadelphia. This is, again, this was their year. I think most people would argue they're the favorite that's left in the playoffs after they knocked out the Braves. Like, this is their year to do it. They won the first 2 games. Now they're facing elimination. Yeah. I can't wait to see what happens tonight. Also tonight, you get the NFL, or excuse me, the NHL, what's it they call it? Frozen Frenzy?
Frozen Frenzy.
Can't wait, man.
Yeah.
ESPN2, it's going to be awesome. They're going to whip around every game in the National Hockey League, and the NBA begins tonight, if you care.
Got a massive hockey parlay coming tonight.
I love it, dude. Get your hockey parlays in. That'll do it for us. If you missed any of the show, go check the Service Patriots podcast, 1080thefan.com, at Dirt and Sprague and at 1080 The Fan. Thanks for being a part of our Tuesday, everybody. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 6 a.m. Calling us next. You're listening to 1080 The Fan.